So I will go ahead and start with the book first. We are not going to go into the details of the book. I'll go just at the content level. What are the things that we are covering? And then I want to move on to what we have covered in our video and what we have covered in the Scrum reference guide. I'll go ahead and share my screen now. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it loaded.
Yep. Okay. So Agile Practice Guide, that's one of the books that that PMI has. It does not say that this is the book that will have questions from this book, because they normally say that it's a PM box is the only thing that is required. However, this book is the one that has a very detailed concepts shared in it. That's why I'm sharing it. So you should all have already access to this one. I shared this book earlier, but I'm just gonna go over that one together with you so that we can go over the details. So one of the main thing that if you look at the content wise, it has definable work versus high uncertainty work. That was the main thing that we have in my video as well. I explained what is a definable work, what is a high intensity work, high uncertainty work that we have means that where you don't have complete clarity in your project, in your requirement. That's where you have uncertainty. The things where we have definable work means an example is that if you want to build a house or build just we took example of building one room in a house, you pretty much have most of the requirements already chalked out because they are very standard requirements we have. However, in high uncertainty work is the one where your client wants or your customer wants something that to build, but they are not 100% clear. They say, I want something like this. When the word comes out that I want something like this, it means that they are not very clear exactly what they are looking for. So that's where we as as a project manager, our responsibility is that we need to help them define the work. And how do we do it? We have our business analysis team who would jump in and do it. But even the business analyst won't be able to document and understand everything if the client does not have a clarity in that. So in order to have that clarity, we need to jump into that and then say, okay, let's go take a baby steps at a time, divide it into multiple, what we call it a sprint in agile methodology. We call it a sprint, and then we just start using it to start using, adding some more and more work to that. And then when we have enough set of requirements to be completed, we start working on that one. And then when we complete that, that's actual workable small solution that we have. And then we have another set of requirement that will be added. And then we start working on that one. And at the end, when we have an end product of that, both of these are going to be combined with one. So that's called the sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. That's how we go on. It explains agile manifesto, agile mindset. I did mention in my video as well what agile mindset is and why we are doing it. The manifesto, you can actually read it into this book. I'm not going into that detail. We will not have that time to actually cover the manifesto and everything in this lecture. Lean and Kanban are two methods. They are the ones, they just like Scrum is one of the method. We have a Lean and Kanban. These are the two methods as well. As I said that not necessarily you have to be a master of all these methods, because that's almost close to impossible to do that. However, if you have a clear concepts, then you can actually work on any of these concepts as well. Then it talks about uncertainty, risk, and life cycle of selection. When we say life cycle selection, there are different type of life cycle selections we have, and we can discuss it more on that one, what those life cycle selections are. The next chapter that we have is actually about those life cycle selections. It has a project life cycle selection, which have a predictive life cycle selection, iterative cycle selection, and incremental. So mostly it depends at which lean, Kanban, or Scrum you're using. We have those different life cycle selections are going on in Agile. Then we have some characteristics of each one of those. For this exam, you don't necessarily need to be master of those things as well. However, the next one is Agile suitability filters. These things that you need to understand what those filters are and how they are applied. Different type of filters that we're going to be using. Characteristics of hybrid life cycle. That's my favorite that we normally use. Hybrid life cycle, which means that I don't go with a very one specific type of life cycle. Either it has to be a predictive or iterative or incremental. It has to be the one that is the best fit for my project. And if I think that for my project, certain areas I can go with the predictive, certain areas I have to go with incremental, we'll go with that one as well. Combined agile and predictive approach is, again, that's predictive approach is when you have mostly things are defined that you can predict, and the agile is where you don't have everything defined. That's where you have to go with the agile, and then you can actually combine them and make it a hybrid as well. Okay, moving on to the implementing agile, creating an agile environment. That's where I have already explained it in my video, and that's the more details of that reference guide I will go today on this one. Implementing agile. Chapter 5 is the delivering in an agile environment. That's we again that is also covered in that one, what exactly it is, how we are doing it. And so this in this lecture, this training is not about Scrum or Agile only. That's why we are not spending too much time just doing the Agile training here. We are just trying to understand the concepts here because our focus still is on a PMP, not on Agile methodology. So, but this itself, it requires detailed training, at least 1 or 2 day training, where we have to go over each one of these concepts and do some practice as well. But I'm sure most of you at your workplaces, you have already started working because it's not a very old concept anymore, or a new concept as well anymore, that people are now adopting that agile methodology. And then you are actually working on these different type of processes, and then those processes are implemented at your workplace as well. So one of the main thing is the chapter 6 is very important, where you say the organizational consideration for project agility. That is something you have to um, look at your organization, how the organization has to be prepared in order to adopt the agility, which is not very common. One of the common pitfall that I have seen, and I have been invited and even hired as a to provide some consultancy to different organizations, where there are a number of organizations who have been trying to jump onto the agile bandwagon for a while, and they say we have all the trainings, we even have a couple of CSM certified Scrum masters in our organization as well, but everything we are doing, we don't feel like we are actually doing anything different from what we used to do in the beginning. And I have this is one of my term that I use a little bit offensive, is that some organizations, they do and they work in agile or Scrum methodology, and some of the organization, they fake agile methodology. And I say that don't fake it, you have it or you don't have it. If you're doing it, then you do it right. If you're not doing it, then find out where the gaps are, and then let's do that. So the transformation from a traditional waterfall concept or a predictive process to agility is itself is a big task. As an organization, sometimes you are not ready for that one, and you think that I can do, oh, we will start all our next projects in agile, and actually they are not able to do it because their organization does not provide that environment. So the organizational change management for that one is very, very important. This is the chapter that I would give you as a homework that you need to do uh, when we cover the rest of the agile processes, and we discuss what we had in our video. And then we I want you to go back, read this one chapter, and understand that what is it that it would take for our organization to be agile ready for that one. Any questions on this?
Just confirm it's chapter 6, right? Okay.
Chapter 6. That is correct. So we are trying to cover this book in a at a very high level, not in much more detail. The reason is because this book requires a full training, separate training for that one. But that would basically is beyond the scope of PMI or PMBOK that we have right now, or the PMP training that we are doing. That's why I would not do the detailed training on this book today. However, in future, if we can actually think about it, we have that characteristic that we can actually set up a time and then have that training as well for agile. If anybody is needed it, we can have set up a separate training for this. Okay, having said that, now let's start with and by the way, I would need a lot of participation from the team today, because this is the work that I have already given you, and I'm expecting that you have done some work. Either you have reviewed the life cycle of Scrum using your the reference guide, or you have watched the video as well and understood some of it. I know the video quality was not too good. It was 10 years ago, and then the videographer did a not a very great job for that. However, it is what it is. Still, it gives you a clear concept of what we have. So I want to know exactly what you have done. If you just show of your hand, if you can tell me that how many of you actually reviewed it and have seen the video, and what you have done, what you understood in that.
I mean, a lot of what was in the video sounded very similar and familiar to how we had been doing a number of our projects at work.
Perfect.
It wasn't completely new.
Great.
Yep.
Okay.
Same here, and also went through the, I just watched the video as well as went through the guide you provided yesterday.
Yeah, I think for us also we do the same thing. Although we don't exactly do everything as was described, but yeah, we do follow most of the things that were talked about in the video.
Do you use any specific type of method? That's why you don't do exactly as it is, or you are doing it because that's more suitable to your project?
It's more suitable to our project and the team. That's why we do it that way. Uh, Basically, most of the work is engineering, hardware engineering type of kind of things, right? So how we, and then there is a lot of, how do I explain it? Without going into a lot of details and boring stuff, a lot of structural design and those kind of things also play in our, our flow or the work that we do. So we have to modify a little bit, but majority of the concept is the same. We do use the Jira for the agile.
Okay.
I mean, one thing that I noted was different between what was described in the video was retrospects at the end of the meeting, limited to 2 hours, and then invite the world. I don't know if we've really been doing that. The retrospect is still within the team itself. And it's not so much of a, let's invite the world into it or the customers into it, and then see if they have new or additional input into it. I think that sort of evaluation at the end of a sprint isn't really there. And most of the teams that I've seen that implement Agile.
Yeah, and then the one thing that you talked about in your video was like, okay, after every sprint, you do get some sort of an output, and then you call your customers and get the feedback and things like that, right? So we don't have anything like that. So that's a little different for us. It's all within the team. Basically, for us, majority of the things that we use it is to actually track our internal progress. How are we doing? What are the issues? And if there are some issues that needs to be addressed at a different team level or the project management level, and those sort of things surface out of that meetings and retrospectives.
Okay, so basically your every sprint does not have an output, a tangible output.
The tangible output is the completion of the stories for us. And then, of course, there are measurements with respect to, like, for example, what we call them as feature implementations and things like that. We track those, and those are basically our outputs.
Okay.
In our world, one of the ceremonies is daily stand-up. We were not doing daily stand-up because that was too much for the team. So we typically, and then it was not pure software development project. It was more around infrastructure and upgrades and all these different things. So we used to do like one first day, obviously sprint planning, and then obviously it was 2-week cycle. So we used to have like a midpoint stand-up, and obviously blockers you identify in a group chat or something like that, but it was not doing like like a software style of daily stand-up and go through all these questions. So that was our practice, and in the end, obviously, every time you don't have a product delivery, but finishing particular task or a user story and things like that. So yeah, so you can say fake it or pretend Scrum, but not 100%, but same spirit, but not 100%, I would say.
Okay. And by the way, that is okay. The main reason is these cycles when you do, every organization has to go through the transformation, and that's the main reason why we're calling it a transformation. So transformation is the one that basically tells you that this is I'm going through this one because this my organization is not ready yet. You start with the smaller baby step, gradually go into each one of those ceremonies that you're getting into, and then eventually you reach to a point where you say, yep, I was able to completely do everything. So that's why it is called transformation, because you are going through step by step. So when you are actually starting it, not everything has to be completely ready for your organization, that it is going to be 100% agility from the day 2. Day 1 you started, day 2 you are 100% ready for agility. You are going to go with 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, and eventually you will reach to 2.0. That's how you're going to do it. So it's not going to be like a one-time thing that you will eventually jump onto that immediately. Okay, anybody else has any questions, comment, what you have heard, learned a little bit?
So go like I mean, we use the Scrum process and like the whole this Agile methodology, but I mean, I have come to an understanding at the end, like based on the way we done it, that I think it suits more into a team where the team like is very close in their experiences and duties and level. Like I would think the process would be perfectly fit if, like, let's say you have a team of 10 that, let's say, all of them are equally knowledgeable in, let's say, database programming. Like nobody's more knowledgeable, because like when I look, let's say, at a team of 10, and you have like maybe 2 SMEs and some engineers working, I mean, on some domain, there are like multiple domains, let's say, within the IP that everyone has experience in. When you come to like, when the business needs are there and the priorities are there, and you want to now size up the tasks that you want to deliver in this sprint, and like you cannot actually do the process, I mean, the way it is. Like you cannot just take the opinion of people how big of a task you think this is and assign it a point, like we use like the Fibonacci, right? Because like you have many people who are not familiar with a task that comes for a different domain. They don't know actually it's going to take actually a whole sprint, or like it's going to be a 3 point, or it's something like can be done quickly. So what I understand, I come to this understanding that like, so agile methodology is good. I mean, but you have like to adapt it. You have to change it in a way that best fits your team. So we did sprints. We did even mid sprint points, we call it, just to check on the progress so that we don't wait till the last day. We did the retrospective, the planning before the sprint starts, like the week before. So all of that, but we had to modify a few things just to make it fit for the team. And then another factor was like interrupts. Like there's a difference between that you have tasks that you know what needs to be done, you size them, and you know that you can deliver them because there are no dependencies. If there are dependencies, you would create a task to resolve these before, of course, like doing it. But then when you're in the sprint, you're limited with the resources. If you have 10 people and all of a sudden there is some bugs, or there's some work that comes in that you have to take a resource out of the team, then that was annoying to start changing the sprint scope and what was agreed to be done in the sprint. And another thing, you cannot even size up the tasks. Like you have an issue that you want to debug and stuff like that, but you cannot actually tell for sure how big it is. It might take someone like a big effort. So we start breaking things down like into, okay, let's create a small task just to check on that, to see what it needs, what are the symptoms are, and then try to size up how much effort or resources that we need for it. So I'm just saying, yeah, one has to adapt.
So what all
What?
these things that you have mentioned over here is actually the practical implementation of agile methodology. If you look at it, the things that you clearly mentioned, you don't know sometime how big is going to be the task until you start breaking it down into smaller tasks, and that's where what we call it a sprints. You can start breaking it into smaller tasks. Those are the smaller sprints, and then each sprint you have different type of the duration of that one, and then you start looking at it that how we are going to be actually implementing this sprint, how many resources will be needed for this one. So that's where you start looking at the implementation aspect of the sprint. So we call it a sprint or agile or scrum ceremonies. Those ceremonies are the ones that basically help you in identifying the size of the sprint, size of the output that you're looking at, the expectations that you need to have as well. So let's jump on to, we have spent about 30 minutes on this one. I want to go over not the video, because video you have already seen, so I'm not going to go over the video. And now we will go over the Scrum reference guide now. And but before I go into the reference guide, actually this better, let's go into the reference guide first, and then we will have more details that what are the different type of things that we are going to be covering, and you will know what are the different type of the ceremonies that are going to be there. The why I'm choosing this Scrum reference is that, number one, I am good at it. Very simple. I have done that one. Secondly, this is the one that is one of the very basic one. I don't want to create and give you something in this training session, something that is too complicated and where it's a little bit difficult for people to understand that. Again, this reference guide is not designed by me. It is by, there's a name over there, Michael James. It is available though for everyone to go over that one. That's why I shared
Brother
it.
Gul, are you sharing the screen?
I am gonna share it now.
Okay.
I'm gonna share it now again. There you go. Okay. Hope you all can see my screen now.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
All right. So we'll start with this one. If you look at it, first of all, overall management framework is incremental product development. That is only Scrum. So the Scrum is incremental. We will have other product development lifecycle as well, and I will go over them separately as well, as we were earlier looking into the book, and then there were different type of lifecycle. When Scrum is considered an incremental, does anybody has any idea what is the, or at least people are familiar with this waterfall methodology, and which is very traditional one, that you start going on with the requirement, then you design, and after you design, you code or you construct or you develop, then you integrate if you have to integrate it with the other parts of it. Even if it's in a construction project, you can do that as well. Then you test it, everything, and then you deploy that. That's like the water is flowing from requirement all the way to the deployment. Anybody has any idea what this, where this process falls in terms of predictive, iterative, or what was the third one we discussed?
I can try.
Yeah.
So waterfall, in waterfall methodology, the requirements are gathered first, and if in the project, I mean down the line, if there are any changes in the requirement, that's usually not encouraged.
Okay.
Planning.
Okay, that's good. That's a good point. But where would it fall? Is it incremental, predictive, or iterative?
So Gul, it looks like it is a combination of predictive and iterative.
Okay. Right. Typically, waterfall methodology is considered predictive. The reason is we already predict what the requirements are. We already know what the requirements, how it's going to be. The iteration is once we are doing, once we complete the whole project, then the iteration is not within one phase. Iteration is the moving into the next phase that we have. So that's why waterfall is considered a predictive one. So you can predict everything, you know, right from the beginning what are the different type of requirements that you have and what you want to build. One of the examples that I have used in my video as well, that if you want to construct a bridge, I'm not a civil engineer, but anybody who is in the construction engineering, please help me over here. My understanding is that you already have all the requirements. You want to build a bridge, you for the most part you already know what are the different requirements that you have. You cannot build a bridge with the smaller pieces at a time and then having a different methodology because you don't know how what the requirements are for that bridge. Am I right? Anybody has
Yeah, I think you're right. You always know that the bridge needs to start here and finish there. Needs to be this high to get the ships underneath it. Things like that. There are
exactly
three
So-
requirements that you need up front. Yes, you're right.
correct? So for that one, that's why sometimes people say that, oh, when that's another pitfall that we have. When people jump onto the agile methodology or go into the agile approach, they want to run everything only by agile. And that I always say that's like another extreme, going from extreme right to the extreme left. So you need to understand that whether that fits into my project or not. If it's not a project where you can actually do, you don't have an uncertainty in your project, you have a very clear cut, straightforward, all requirements, everything defined, then go with that one. You don't need to actually then build having an agile methodology. There is a cost to agile approach as well. That's the cost that people don't understand that. Does anybody have figured that out? And I discussed it in my video as well, what that cost is. Nope. Okay. The cost for this, for the agile process, is that when you are adding up, you have a product that you build at the end of every sprint. It's a workable, tangible product that you have. Then you build the next sprint, and then you add to that product. And that's where you're doing the integration. During that integration, it may create more work because the integration is not actually happening that smoothly. So you did that for first set of requirements were perfect, second set of requirements were perfect. They are cohesive within that sprint. But when that sprint was trying to integrate it with the existing product, you could not do it. An example is that if you are trying to build a roof of the house, uh, can you do a half roof of half of the room, and then the remaining half you can say I'm going to put it into a new sprint, and then we'll see how the remaining half will go? Most likely,
No.
quite possible that you might have some creative idea to do it in the construction, but most likely it's going to be, yeah, if you're building a roof or you're putting a roof on top of a room, then do it cover the whole room instead of just doing it half at a time. So that's why, because your integration points may create more work for you, and that will add more work than you will have to in your scope, and then you have to go back and then do the more scoping work over there and then do it. That's why you need to look at it whether your waterfall methodology is suitable for your project or iterative methodology is more suitable for you. Okay. All right. So that's the major difference between iterations and the simple waterfall predictive methodologies, the life cycle we have. And when we do go into that one, what exactly do we do? We have these are the different. This is overall the cycle of that one. We have a sprint planning meetings. We have daily scrum meetings, sprint review meetings, sprint retrospective meetings, and then we have backlog refinement meetings that are separate, that keep on going on. So these are the different type of the meetings that we have. But first, I want to just move on to the roles that we have for different agile methodology. You have a product owner who is going to be the overall owner of your project, the final work product that you are trying to build. You have your development team, who's going to be your Scrum development team, who will be responsible to build this one. And then you have a Scrum Master. If you are using a Scrum methodology, you have a Scrum Master who is making sure that all the ceremonies of a Scrum methodology are actually being taken place. So that's the one that you have. Then you follow all these meetings that we have, and then we do the sprint planning. Now let's start with the role on this one. Has anybody played the role of a product owner before?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Can you want to share what you have done so far?
I did it for only one project. I think it was about 5 years ago. Basically, once the project requirements were there and the schedule and things like that, my role was to negotiate all the schedule and get all of those things done. And then for basically once we have those done, then now distributing the work to our team. And I acted as a product owner to define what is acceptable criteria of each of the Scrum results, right? Outputs. And then how we are going to meet and basically run the meetings to track how the things were proceeding.
Okay, good. So one of the things that you heard Brother Abid explaining what the role has been as a product owner, and you can see it over here. It basically the product owner is the leader of the overall process of this one. Where do you see that it is aligned with in terms of our project management methodology that we have been reviewing? We have seen about 49 processes we reviewed. If I want to align the product owner role with one of those roles that are defined in our project management processes, where would this role be? Whether will this be a project manager?
No,
Okay.
it's a BI or a product manager role.
Okay. So who is gonna be the product owner then?
I'm saying product owner can be a product manager. I mean, the product manager as a role can be a product owner, but it's not necessarily always the case. Even engineering managers are the product owners in or directors, sometimes. So that's the role.
Yeah. So the simple and this is for your PMP exam as well, that sometimes they will ask you that who is going to be the product owner for this one. So you need to look at it, that what are the different options. One simple, very straightforward answer is because look at it over here, we are talking about the single person responsible for the maximizing the ROI of the development effort, has a leadership role, decides whether to ship or not. So this is the person who is one of the stakeholders as well. But this stakeholder is the one who is going to be fully engaged. This is not the stakeholders who is just sitting and waiting for the final product. This is the stakeholder who's involved and who's actually waiting for looking at the each and every work product that is being produced at the end of every sprint, and then looking at it whether overall my product is being built properly or not. So that's the stakeholder engagement process that we reviewed. This is going to be the main person who's involved with that one. And as Faisal mentioned, there could be multiple product owners, which means that there might be multiple stakeholders in this project that we have. The second role that we have is a Scrum development team, which is basically consists of your development team, your requirement team, who's going to be like your business team, who's interacting with the end clients, understanding what their needs are, translating it if the business requirements into the technical requirements, whether it's no matter which field it is, whether it's construction engineering, software engineering, or IT or anything, it is translating into that one, and then having it your technical team to start working on that one. It will also include your construction or development team who will be working on that one. It will include your testing team who's going to be working on that one. So all these people are going to be in each one of your development team. Since we have the whole Scrum process is divided into multiple sprints, each sprint will have only a limited set of requirements. So which means that we don't necessarily need to have a very huge team for that one. We might have even a set of 4 or 5 different requirements in one sprint, even though overall, if you have a list of use cases or list of requirements for the whole project, that might be in hundreds. So one of the tool that I have used for this one is Jira, as I think someone else also mentioned here, that Jira is one of the tools that you can use. I have used that one. You can start writing the user stories. Basically, these are the business stories that you have. You start writing them as well, and then that will create your list of requirements. You start picking up each one of those user stories and start putting them into the actual Scrum sprints that you're creating. Here, one of the key question that I have seen many times is this one. What is the ideal size of a Scrum of one Scrum team or one sprint team that you have? So the sprint team is at 7 plus minus 2 members, which means it's between 5 to 9 members team is an ideal team that you have.
Yeah, it makes sense because if you have a larger team, that your daily updates standards will be longer, and also when you're doing your assignment, when you're setting up the Scrum, that also takes a lot of time to define the stories and things like that for each person on the team.
Correct. Right. Moving on to the
I
another.
don't know. I don't know why it is written under Scrum development team that has a leadership role. That's not the case usually. So, I mean, there can be leaders over there. I mean, what do you mean by has a leadership role?
The leadership has a leadership role is it just says that because it is a possibility. It's not necessarily everyone is a leader over there, but it is a possibility that you might have some teams that have a structured team. For example, you have a team of four or three or four construction people over there, and one of them is a team lead. So you have a leadership role as well in this. So that's why we do consider that the development team should have leadership capabilities as well.
Or maybe the construction lead is representing them in the Scrum, maybe.
Correct, but then the team itself consists of all of them.
Yeah, that's why I'm like,
Exactly.
especially in our engineering projects, every engineer is there, right, in those meetings. So
They are there, but lead is the one who's representing that, who's actually looking at the type of work. It depends that how big is the team. For example, if you have a team of 9 to 10 people, frankly speaking, 7 plus minus 2 is the ideal number that has been mentioned. I had in my practical experience only one of my project has about that number. So remaining of my projects have between 10 to 12 people normally in my sprint, every sprint. So that's not an ideal number, and that this is not again not the number that you say that if you have a more than 9 or less than 5 people, then your sprint fails. But these are the recommendations that you have. Ideally, you should have a 7 plus minus 2 members. Okay. All right. The next one we have role, we have a Scrum Master. This is a very, very, very important Scrum Master role that we have. In this one, the whole job of the Scrum Master is to facilitate the Scrum process that we have. So depending upon which agile process you are following, if you are following a lean or a Kanban or Scrum, this person is the one who is going to be making sure that you have all the documentation ready for that one. You will have all the processes are actually followed on that, and the proper output of that one is expected. That also the role of this person is emphasizing on if you have anything that you are trying to do solve a problem within the meeting which is not meant for solving a problem, or your meeting is going off track from the agenda item, that person has to bring that back into that one and make sure that you stay within that Scrum ceremony that you have. So that's why this is a very important role. However, if you look at it, the second last point is very important, because most of the teams, they missed took this one. They think that this is the role of a project manager. The project manager is also the Scrum Master. Most of the teams will ask you the project manager to become a Scrum Master as well. That's the biggest mistake. Scrum Master should not have that kind of authority, should not be going into what is whether this is from ROI point of view, from the development point of view, whether the cost point of view, this project, the feasibility of this project is viable or not. That's not the role of a Scrum Master. But the project manager has to take care of all of these. So normally when you mix the two roles and you assign the project manager as a Scrum Master as well, that's where the line starts to blur, and then most of the time those projects have a lot of problems. So I always recommend that you should have a Scrum Master who should not be a project manager, who should be only responsible for your Scrum ceremonies that you have. but it does require that you need to have a leadership role as well. So have you have a question?
Yeah, I think you're kind of touching on that answer already, but in a traditional organizational hierarchy, you have a set of managers, eventually a technical team lead of some kind, and then he'll work with 4 or 5 developers or whatnot, right? So there's somebody at the bottom, and then there's this whole hierarchy, and then you start introducing the system that, hey, let's start doing stuff in an agile way, and now you have to start defining all these new roles that you need a product owner or some kind of scrum master, and then the scrum team. So the scrum team is easy to define. That's the people doing the work, right? How do you allocate the scrum master? Because then does he need to be somebody from your team, somebody from a different team? You just said that he shouldn't be in a in an authoritative position for that team specifically, and he shouldn't be the project manager. So then, are you borrowing a scrum master from a different team somewhere else? Um, where do all these new roles come from, and how do you, or rather, which people or what positions from the traditional management hierarchy shouldn't be used as product owners and scrum masters?
That's a good question, actually. When you are in a traditional hierarchy, that where you have a at a high level a project manager or someone, and then you have other roles as well. So Scrum Master could be another project manager as well, but the role of the Scrum Master is not to go over there and say, hey, why your project is being delayed, and if it is being delayed, what are the things that you need to do? How do you make sure that your any of the schedule delay, cost delays, or cost overcharging that is being reflected, and the corrective action, that what corrective action you need to take. That's not the role of a scrum master. The role of a
So
scrum
if the
master is
team is running behind whatever schedule they had, as being given at some point,
correct.
like who's driving the team to say that, hey, we need to pick up the pace a little bit, we need to maybe take on a little bit more work? Because that was always the case, when we were going through some of these exercises, right? That, okay, technically, your scrum master, like you said, shouldn't try and impact schedule. The team is not autonomous and trying to do the absolute best that they can, but that never happens, right? They are
But
behind now, and somebody has
that's
to try
why,
and push them, and that's not going to be the scrum master.
correct. So that's why we have most of the time for every single project, we have a product manager, a project manager, and then we have scrum master right next to project manager, and then we have multiple sprints that are going on. So your project manager and scrum master, they go hand in hand with each other. They go to each one of those sprint meetings and see what is happening. Scrum master's role is to make sure that all the ceremonies are being taking place. They are actually following the protocols, and the project manager's role is to go in and say, okay, what's going on? Where do we make the changes? What is if there is a schedule delay, then find out what the cause of that one, find out what the solution of that problem is, and then we go into that and then try to solve the problem. That actually brings up next one here. So just to answer in one line is, which in this whole process they only mention the product owner. We always have a project manager with the product owner as well. You cannot run an iterative process as well if you don't have a project manager. So project manager is needed. Otherwise, your product owner is the one who has to wear two hats, as a product owner as well as a project manager. So these are the two. So this guide is recommending that role, whereas I normally, because that's normally, so if you look at it here, it says decides whether to ship or not, accepts or rejects the product increment. Yeah, that is the product owner role. Decides whether to ship or not, that's project manager. uh, Decide whether to combine to continue a development, that's a project manager. So these are the may contribute as a team member as well, that's again the project manager. So all these roles are actually the project managers.
So when
That
it comes to people wearing multiple hats, and that's something, I don't know, I mean, anybody at Intel is going to say that, yes, when it comes to adopting Agile, we all had to wear multiple hats.
Mhm.
Which hats would you say, or which two hats would you say the person should definitely not wear at the same time?
project manager and a scrum master. They should not. That's why I did not differentiate here at product owner, but scrum master, I would say your scrum master and your project manager should be totally two different people. You should not
Where do
have
you typically find a scrum master from then in this traditional hierarchy of, managers, team lead,
Development team.
minions?
So
Development
one
team
of the
lead.
guy from or a girl from your team who is it could be your team member, and it could be ideally the scrum master is the one who is at par with the project manager and going into each one of those sprints and making sure these things are happening, these ceremonies are actually taking place, and all the compliance is done. Ideally, if you go into the government organizations, scrum master is someone from the compliance department who are just responsible and making sure that all the compliance of the government compliance are actually met. That's where you can actually pick up one person from that team and say this person is my scrum master, provided that person actually knows what the scrum master role is. Because if you ideally scrum master should have a CSM certification so that that person actually knows, or at least has run those ceremonies multiple times. If the person you say that, oh, I'm picking you as my scrum master, and that person say, oh, by the way, I don't even know what the scrum is or what the agile methodology is, then there's no point. So the people who the role of a scrum master is just a compliance inspector, the person who's coming in and making sure that all your sprints and everything that is running, they are running as per the ceremonies that we are doing right now. So that's the role of a scrum master that we have. Whereas the role of a project manager is, you can say that the project manager is overall responsible for the project. That's why I say that they should not wear, one person should not wear these two hats. The reason is, if you do that, then you as a project manager, you want to, short circuit some of the processes and say, okay, let's skip this one, move on to the next one. And then from a compliance point of view, you do need to have that. I'll give you one very specific example, a very big pitfall and very big issue that people fall into that. And that is daily scrum meetings. But we call it daily stand-up meetings as well. What happens in those stand-up meetings?
Every
Those,
engineer.
yeah,
Is it a question or you are going to?
Yeah, if you have a question, you know the answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, just three activities by a team member. That is what he did yesterday, what he's going to do today, and what is a blocker. That's it.
Correct.
I mean, anything else is a drag actually, and
Exactly.
prolongs the meeting.
Exactly. And that's why we call it a daily stand-up meetings. We literally make people stand even when they are working virtually from their home offices. We normally have the cameras on and we ask them to stand up. Why? Because there should not be like really solution meetings where people get involved into the solution, and then it takes longer time to understand what it is. One of the biggest problem that we have in any of the organization is who are trying to adopt the Scrum or Agile methodologies are, they turn their daily stand-up meeting into a solution meeting. And who is to blame for that one normally? Who is the culprit
Master.
most of the time?
Scrum
Scrum
Master?
Master.
No. Most of the time, the Scrum Master is the one who's compliance officer. But who is the one who actually make them do that? How to solve this problem?
Product owner.
Product owner, right?
Correct. Sister, your answer is absolutely right. Project manager is most of the time who's making that mistake. So as a project manager, I tend to solve the problems while my whole team is there. So what do I do? I'll say, okay, yeah, we are here. Let's solve that problem right away, right here. Everyone is here. Let's do that. And then that's where my Scrum Master is going to say, wait a minute. Let's take that one after this call. So if you want to turn this meeting into a Scrum into that solution meeting, let's finish the round robin. Make sure that we get the status from everyone, and then whoever is not needed for that solution can drop off, and then we can continue. Then that meeting will become a solution meeting. But don't do that right now. That will bring back everyone on the track what the agenda for this meeting is.
But Gulbhai, sometimes way too many meetings hinders your progress on fixing a solution. Have meetings upon meetings. So where do you draw the line and say, nope?
That's exactly that's one of the biggest challenge that everyone has. I always say that in my team, I always if I'll show you someday my calendar if I can, that every single day I have 1 hour allocated for what I call it a focus time. That is the time when I don't want to take any meeting. My calendar is blocked so that nobody can actually schedule another meeting on top. And that is the time when I want to actually get the work done. Otherwise, I'm in back to back to back to back meetings, and I'm not able to actually even refresh and switch the context. And that is gonna hinder my ability to even do the job that I'm supposed to do. So if you turn your your daily stand-up meeting into a solution meeting, what is happening? You are still taking that time to actually solve that problem. So what we do is that we say, okay, the Scrum Master will come in and say, okay, that's fine. You want to continue this meeting as your solution meeting? Let's take this person. For example, I come in and I say, give me your solution. And I have all these. I have Sohaib, Faisal, Khalid, Sarah, everyone is there. And then I ask a question, and then Faisal says that I have this problem and I'm not able to solve this problem as of now. And instead of trying to solve that problem right away, Scrum Master will say, okay, let's take Faisal's question at the end of this meeting, and then let everyone else say, do their job, explain their 3 questions, answer their 3 questions, which is what you did yesterday, what are you going to do today, and what are the roadblocks that you have. These 3 questions everyone else can answer, and then everyone else can drop off, and you can continue with the right people in the room to solve the problem. You are actually not creating another meeting. You are still completing the agenda of the current meeting and then continuing to solve the problem. So if you look at it, this is not adding another meeting. This is reducing a meeting actually. That's the purpose of this. Got the answer?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So that's one of the biggest pitfall that most of the teams have, that they try to solve the problems in those daily stand-up meetings. That's why I always say that the daily stand-up meeting should not be more than 15 minutes. It should literally be just 15 minutes. That's it. You allocate 15 minutes for this one, you finish it, and make sure that your agenda is concise for that. You need another 15 minutes to solve a problem, you can do that. Have another 15 minutes after that. But don't try to solve your problems in those meetings as well. Okay. Now, the first one that we do, problem that or meeting we set up is called sprint planning meetings. What do we do in sprint planning? I have explained it in my presentation, in my video.
In the sprint planning, I mean, I think the frequency of your sprints are going to in the sprint planning is the real planning of that particular sprint, right? The number of tasks or the user stories and all this you are going to achieve in that one, right? And what is the outcome of that product which will come out of that sprint planning, right? And you go through the backlog and stuff. So
yes, so in your sprint planning, what you do is that you have your product backlog. Product backlog is, what is product backlog? That is your the set of requirements that you have, a complete set of requirements that you have. You use that one for product backlog, and you take some of those requirements from a set of requirements from each one of from that product backlog, and you define that these are going to be my sprint plannings. Brother Khalid, you have a question? Okay. So if you have, that is your sprint planning meeting where you will defining what are the requirements that we will be covering in a certain sprint. Then, or at the same time, when practically when we do, I have my whole team, all the sprints in there, and then we define that how many new sprints we want to run. So we say that we're gonna run, for example, 3 sprints starting from February 15, and these 3 sprints will be, one team is gonna be focusing on first set of requirements, and then we have another second set of requirements, and we have a third set of requirements. So each team is going to be working on that one in parallel. These 3 sprints are going to run in parallel, and then we decide who's going to be part of each one of those sprint teams. So we define, ideally, again, our focus has been and would be to have between 5 to 9 people in each one of those. And also we define based on your sprint backlog. So once you have a product backlog, which is your complete set of requirements for the whole product, you define the certain requirement for each sprint. That sprint, that the set of requirements will be called the sprint backlog. Now, using at that sprint backlog, you will define that how many people I would need and how much time it would take. Then you do your estimation into that one. There's a process for the estimation. You go in there, you do your estimation and find out that how much time total it will take for your one sprint to be completed. And that's going to happen. What we do is that we normally define one sprint planning meeting where we define how many sprints we want to run, what are the requirements, what is the overall timeline for each one of those sprints, and then I ask each team to go to spread out and then work separately, independently for your planning. One team comes back and says that, oh, we have estimated our sprint duration is going to be 2 weeks. The other team comes back and say, my sprint duration is going to be 4 weeks. And the third team comes back and say, my time is going to be 5 weeks. Then we have to look at it. Can we reduce the size of that backlog, sprint backlog? Because ideally it should be 2 weeks, but normally in most of my projects, we have between 3 to 4 weeks duration of a sprint duration. So we try to keep it that way, depending upon your estimation, depending upon your size of your sprint backlog. You go into that one. That's what all these things that have been explained here in the sprint planning meeting. That's what you do in the sprint planning. Any question on this? Okay. Now, this is the one.
Sorry, I was late on muting. So it seems you have the sprint backlog is what you refer to as the task that will be assigned in the sprint to be finished within the sprint. But then we have the backlog that contains everything for might be huge, like all the tasks that you go through and refine every once in a while and prioritize. So would you call that a product backlog? Or?
Correct. So if you look at it here, I'm sharing my screen. Product backlog is this list. We have the big list that we have. This is a complete product backlog. Then you take one of these. So for example, you took the first 4 of these, and these are the 4, and then you put it into one sprint backlog. So you create a sprint backlog with that consists of only the first 2 or first 3 or first 4 of them, and put them in there. And we have a small, medium, large, extra large. All these are the categorization of these requirements or backlog items that you have. In that's going to help you in estimating it. So sometime when we actually spend time, some of the organization, for example, in my organization, what we do is we look at the product backlog and then we do the estimation for these. Product backlog, not on a sprint backlog. We do a product backlog estimation. And then we define the standard timeline for each one of those as a PMO. When we define a standard timeline for each one of those, for example, if I have defined that any of the small requirement would take between 15 to 20 hours to complete, and any of the large is going to take between 60 to 70 hours to complete this, the number of hours we define for the whole team in terms of duration. And when we define that one, that's when I put it everything in the product backlog, and we have categorized them as small, medium, large, extra large. It's very easy for my team when they go in, they don't need to actually do the whole estimation all over again. We have already done that. They say, let's pick up 2 small, 1 medium, 1 large, and then that's it. So it's like a la carte. They just pick up one of those, and that will fit into my 2 weeks or 3 week cycle. They can do that. But I'm not saying that is a rule. That's something that you do. I'm just giving you an example that how we try to facilitate and help the teams to standardize this estimation of the duration. Still, team when they look at the 2 small, 1 medium, 1 large, in this one, they look at it, they pick up any of these, and then also it also depends sometimes what their skill level is. If something that is small for me, but I don't have a right skill set for my team, in my team, and then they say that for us, in order for us to do this one, for us it is a medium, or it's for us it's a large project because we don't have right skills. So we leave it back over there, or we have to train our team to do that. But this is what we do. So product backlog is this one that we have, and then we have a sprint backlog, which is this, where you can see your sprint backlog, and then you divide your sprint backlogs into. This is again a process. Whenever if we have a sprint or a Scrum methodology training or Agile training, then I will explain how we actually do that. That within the sprint, how do we actually plan it and divide it into multiple sizes, and how we actually plan the whole sprint on that one. But in a nutshell, that's what you're doing right now. Okay.
How do you like different teams are sometimes sensitive about like relating like work hours, like we use like points, but then like in reality you have to know like, okay, what's the point in time? And if you're doing like a sprint of 2 weeks, then what is the maximum number of points like a team member can take? So you
Correct.
size up a story, say 13 points, and sometimes you say, okay, if you have a story 13 points, that's it. You cannot like exceed 13 points in a Scrum, so you cannot even take anything else. But how do you measure that? Because that's when you start saying, okay, a story is 13 points, but to someone who's an expert, you know, it doesn't take much time. But let's say sometimes a 3-pointer for someone who's new or average, like it might take more time because they want to ramp up and stuff. And then when you're supposed to size a task, you just size a task based on like, you know, the consensus of the team, right? Like everybody gives a size. So I don't know like how to relate these things, like if there's like any information about it from you.
Yeah, so the points is basically here what I was explaining: small, medium, large, and extra large. That's basically your points. So you can say that the maximum you can have is 2 small, 1 medium, 1 large, something like that. Or you can also define points for each one of them. For each, for example, you can say each small is, or each extra large is a 15 point. Each large means 12 points. Each medium means 8 points. Each small means up to 7 points. So in that way, you will say that the maximum you can pick in one sprint is about let's say 15 or 16 points, and based on that you can pick up your you can create that one. So exactly the points that you are referring to here, we have actually made it into small, medium, large, and extra large. That's basically your quantification of what would it take for one particular requirement from the product backlog for your team to actually complete. That's how you can do it. So that's what I was explaining, that you can actually very easily allocate the points for each small, medium, large, and extra large that I explained here. And then you can ask your team that for each sprint, pick up your 13 points here. So they can start picking up the points from right there.
Yeah.
So they can say that, oh, your extra large is 15 points. I can't do extra large because I can only do a 15 points. So, okay, then can we increase the size of your team and then you pick up one extra large and then do a 30, instead of 13, can you do a 15 or 16? So that's where you can actually connect them one-on-one. Okay. So here we are explaining that what the sprints, the daily scrum, how we are doing it. And then we create where we also start looking at it, that how many hours we are actually using it. We have a sprint burn down chart as well that tells you exactly how many hours we are burning every day, and then we do the complete sprint execution. Sprint execution is that what the task we're doing that have been assigned to us in the sprint. So then on a daily basis, we would know exactly whether we are on track or not, because we are having a daily stand-up meeting. And that daily stand-up meeting is, and by the way, can anybody explain what the purpose of a daily stand-up meeting?
Status?
Okay, anybody else?
Not status.
Progress.
To check the
To
progress
know any
and
impediments, like, if there are any impediments that can be removed immediately.
Blockers, yes. Blockers can be removed.
So the purpose of a daily stand-up meeting is not a status. Daily stand-up meeting is not a status meeting. It's basically to inform and educate your rest of your team members. What are the issues that you're facing? They might need to look for those impediments if they are coming in their way. Or maybe they have a solution for a problem that you are facing right now. So they can help you in solving that problem as well. That's the purpose of our daily stand-up meetings.
So can we say communication?
It's a communication, but communication is all of these. Even the status is a communication. But the purpose is not to give just the status that, oh, I'm on track or I'm not on track. So that's
So
why
kind of defining tasks to the team.
Sorry, say that again.
Defining tasks to the team.
Correct. So defining for them and then telling them what you are doing and how are you doing it in this. But it is, if you see that the three questions that we have is, there's no question asking whether you are on track or not. The question is what I did yesterday, what am I going to be doing today, and what are the roadblocks that I have. So if you have that thing, that basically is telling them that this roadblock I'm facing, somebody else might also have already faced this roadblock and may say that, oh, yep, I already seen that one, and this is how I solved it. Good. So we use that one, that solution, to instead of reinventing the wheel. Or somebody says that, oh, you are doing this, you did this yesterday, so did I. We need some integration points and we need to work on that one together. Okay, good. That now your team is informed. And roadblocks is you are telling them what the roadblocks that you have faced and how they should be looking out for these kind of roadblocks. In that way, when one person solves the problem, that the problem that not necessarily one solution fits all, but sometimes it does, or maybe with a little bit of a modification. Somebody else can say, yep, I also face the same problem and this is how I solved it. Or this problem was not solved and we had to find another solution for this or an alternate approach for this one. So don't waste your time finding a solution. That's how you help each other. So that's the basically the purpose of this one. If you look at this here, it says the daily scrum is intended to disrupt the old habits of working separately. Members should remain vigilant for signs of the old approach. So that we are actually here, we are collaborating with each other on a daily basis instead of working in their silos. Okay. Once the sprint is completed, then we do the sprint review meetings. They demonstrate a working product increment to the product owner and say everyone else who is interested in this one, and then tell them that this is what we have built in this one. And your Scrum Master helps the product owner and stakeholders convert their feedback to new product backlog and tell them that this is what we have done, and this has created some additional requirements as well that we are putting it into your product backlog. But your product, the end product or the work product for this sprint has been produced, and that can be added to your existing work product that you have from other sprints. One of the very common additional work is just the integration points. So you can say that I have a big team of, let's say, 50 people that consists of 5 different sprints running in parallel. All 5 of them were successful. They finished their work on time. But guess what? Now I have 5 work products. They are of no use to me until I integrate them together into one. So that the additional work is what? The integration point for each one of them. That's going to be additional work product. So next sprint might be just to take these 5 work products and integrate them into one. One team is going to be working just on that part, whereas the rest of the teams are going to start working on the new sprints. That's an example of, or that's one of the drawback of using an agile approach, because then you have your integration is more challenging because you're working on a smaller chunks of pieces, chunks of work that you have. Okay, so your sprint review meeting will basically, you do this review with the product owner, you understand what it does, what are the new challenges that you have faced, what are the things that we did right, what are the things that we did wrong in this one, and is this product now shippable, which means that can we integrate it with the others, or no, it's not up to the mark, we have to go back and do something else. So in that one, if the product owner feels that the newly discovered scope is more important than the original expectation, the new scope displaces old scope in the product backlog. So which means that now every time we finish a one sprint, there is a chance that we have our product backlog is going to be updated, and we need to then go and review and improve our product backlog at the end of every sprint. That is an additional work as well that we need to do. Okay. Now, once the sprint is 100% complete, we have done the review and the results have been discussed, and we made the decision whether we are going to be shipping it or not. And that's where we go in and do the sprint retrospective meeting. Sorry, I misspoke earlier when we said what are the things that we did wrong and the challenges that we had. That you do in retrospective meeting, not in a sprint review meeting. Sprint review is basically all about the work product of the sprint. The overall sprint retrospective meeting is the one where you create your all the things that you discuss, what we did right, what we did wrong. This actually has a direct relationship with one of our other PMI or process that we discussed yesterday. Anybody has an idea what it is? Okay, we just discussed it yesterday. It was a lesson learned. So one of the thing is, yes, brother Khalid, you have a question?
Yeah, lessons learned. That's what I want to say.
Correct. So lessons learned. So lessons learned you normally create in that sprint retrospective meeting. So lessons learned is one of the things that you do in this one. You start creating your lessons learned document as well right here.
Could it actually as well be part of the inspection if this is like a construction type project? Is that a similar phase, the retrospective meeting?
The inspection is normally where you are inspecting the work product, which is, for example, if you have a construction and you are constructing a building, the inspection of the building is the end work product is that building. So that is your sprint review meeting for that. Retrospective is that, okay, I have built this building, the inspectors have come in, they have done the inspection, this is the inspection report, and they passed or failed or whatever. And now that sprint is closed, we are going to go into the new sprint now.
I see.
And before you go into the new sprint, you want to do a retrospective so that you can see if the inspector found few issues and we were able to actually solve those issues, how we did it. You can put that one in lesson learned.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Some of
That's
the,
why
I mean, one of other things like during the retrospective that happens is when you divided up your stories or whatever, right? Like how many points of stories. For some of them, you underestimated or overestimated those kind of tasks. So then you go and learn that, and then say going forward in the next sprint we are going to size these stories properly, and then so we get the best ROI for each sprint.
Excellent point. That's always happens that you have estimated in the beginning and you allocated certain things, certain type of requirements, and said, oh, this is basically 12 points story. And you found out that, oh no, that was actually a 16-point story instead of 12-point story. The actual work is much higher. From that now onward, when you go and do the refinement of your product backlog, at that time you adjust the size of that one because you have a lesson learned. Got it?
Brother, in the sprint review meeting, isn't like, I mean, who owns the closure of a task, right? Like when you create a task, you have an acceptance criteria. You're going to say like, this is what we agreed that's going to be done in this task, right? But at the end, do you just let the engineer close it, or
No, Scrum
Master has
is
a
there,
role
right?
to ask
Usually
like,
for us,
yeah,
Scrum
like did you
Master.
meet the acceptance criteria? And but it should be a consensus that this job is now can be considered done and in the sprint. And usually we do it in that meeting.
There are two decisions
The
you
product, yeah.
one
Sorry.
decision is that has all the activities that were supposed to be performed, have that been completed? That's what your project manager is going to do. But whether this work product that we have created at the end of this sprint, whether this end product is shippable, which means that it can be integrated with the rest of the product or not, that is your product owner who's going to make a decision. So the product owner is going to tell you, yes, it's complete, it's shippable, go ahead and ship it to or integrate it with the rest of the products. Or the product owner may say, you completed it, but we missed one key element over here, so it's not right now shippable. It cannot be integrated with the actual existing product. So we have to either shelf it and do some more work and then add this one and then send these two together later on, or we just discard this one and then start a new sprint. That is also possible. But yeah, your product owner is the one who would have a final say on this one, whether it's a shippable or not. As far as the activities are concerned, both your Scrum Master as well as your project manager Scrum Master will tell you that yes, all these activities that we were supposed to do, we did that one. project manager will tell you when these activities that when we did it, we actually completed all the story points that we were user stories that we were trying to cover. We covered all of them or not. Okay. All right. We already talked about backlog refinement meeting, which means that we will be refining the backlog, product backlog, every time we finish our sprint, so that we can start looking at it. We can start adjusting the estimation or even the other the value of that one, and start actually just dividing it into smaller pieces as well if required. One of the main objective of product backlog is re-estimate, and the other one is to prioritize them. So every time we finish a sprint, there are going to be some new requirements that are going to come on top. That the requirements that are going to come on top could be related to the recently finished sprints that we did, and then they're going to come in as a new requirement, but they come on top because they are higher priority, or they're going to go at the bottom of your queue, and then you can have more the existing requirements that are going to come on top. So you have to prioritize them. That is very, very important. So every time you have a refinement meeting where you do actually sprint backlog, you actually look at that one sprint backlog and you prioritize that to see what are the next top 5 requirements that we have to work on. Any question on this? Okay.
I have a question in regards to the lesson learned, like in the project, who will be mostly involved and responsible for the lesson learned, like record keeping and see the project mostly?
It's a whole team, because lesson learned could be coming from anyone. Your developer can come in, your construction worker can come in and tell you that how hard it is to construct something in a certain concrete area or something. If you are in a in IT organization, you have infrastructure needs to be built. Your network engineer can come back to you and tell you that what are the lessons learned for implementing certain things for example, if you are implementing a SharePoint site, and then they tell you that we have a data centers that are not ready yet. These are the things that needs to be done before we actually implement any of these things. So then we can start adding them as your new sprint backlog or product backlog, not sprint, as well.
Okay, so
The whole team
then
can contribute to that.
got it. So if the whole team, so then who will be like combining to make some booklet or like for the future projects? So like the
So
project manager.
your project manager will document it, make sure that actually normally the teams document them, project manager combine them, review them, all the teams, they are sending everything to the project manager. They look at it and say, okay, yeah, this is the final the backlog that you have. So there are two things. One is a lesson learned only. Lesson learned could be just these are the lesson learned. The project manager is going to look at it, integrate all of the feedback, and then put that as a lesson learned. The other thing is adding more product backlog requirements. Those requirements normally are combined and sent to the product manager, and the product manager has to review it. Product manager has to actually agree to that one, whether yes, these are the new requirements or not. And if he or she agrees to that, then they can actually put that one in the product backlog.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, now let's talk about, we have about 20 minutes. We're gonna talk about the Scrum artifacts that we produce. Product backlog, we discussed it. What are the one that we have? Top items are more granular, and then we have more detailed. The bigger items are down in your queue. We can only one item at a time is top priority. That's also your part of your product backlog that you have. And then you have product backlog items that you're gonna start looking at each one of those items and see what each item is gonna do, and then how you're gonna be actually implementing it. Sprint backlog as well, we discussed it. Once you pick up the top item or items, multiple of them, then those items are gonna go into the sprint backlog. So these, if you look at it here, they are committed, the backlog items, then tasks not started yet, tasks in progress, and tasks completed. So we always go with this whiteboard approach. The bigger items that we have, out of these, we divide these backlog items into multiple tasks. Then each task, how many of these have not started, how many of them are in progress, how many of them are completed. So this is what we when we have our overall sprint meetings. So the sprint meetings that when we do, this basically tells you exactly what is happening. And by the way, this is not a daily stand-up meeting. This is a sprint meeting. So make sure that you are discussing this within your own sprint, that the tasks that are happening right now with your project manager. You can use different type of tools. This is a Scrum Works is one of the tool as well that this guy Michael is recommending. I have not used this one ever. I have used Jira, which is also actually pretty good. So you can use that one normally, and which does exactly the same thing. Not started, implemented, in progress, or done. So you can start just putting those user stories in that list as well. Now, we talked about the sprint tasks. Those tasks are basically more granular, more detailed, and smaller tasks. Specifies how to achieve the product backlog that what we have. What requires 1 day or less of the work, which means that you can actually give these tasks to a team and say, hey, these are the 3 tasks that you have, and each one of them requires about 2 hours worth of work. So hopefully by the end of this day today, I'm expecting all 3 of them should be completed. That's your project manager who's actually giving you these tasks. So that's where these are the sprint tasks that you have. The burn down chart is the one that you create. You say indicate total remaining team tasks hours within the one sprint. So that's your burn down chart. You say that how many tasks are there, how many tasks you're taking up each day, and then overall that this is basically a pretty long one. This is not a one sprint because it goes well, it does from 26th of July all the way to August, mid-August. So it's about 1 month long or 3 weeks long actually. So that makes sense. So about this is how we go with about 3 to 4 weeks of duration of these tasks. So that this burn down chart actually tells you how you are making the progress. So if you have the how many number of tasks that you are working on, and then you re-estimate daily basis and see how we are doing it, how much time it will take. One of the things that we discussed yesterday was earned value management. Anybody remember that one? Do you know how is this related to that? So burn down chart is actually, since we are saying we re-estimate daily, that's exactly what we do in earned value management as well. Earned value management, we re-estimate not a daily basis, but we do on a very regular basis, on a weekly basis maybe. Here we are doing since it's within a sprint, so we are doing re-estimation on a daily basis. That's exactly what where you are doing your earned value management. You would know that what are the things that we need to do, and then how much time it will take for us to complete the remaining tasks. Now, one of the things that people think is sometimes these sprint burn down charts, they become too much of a burden for the team. So as a scrum master, because scrum master is the one who's tracking all these activities, how many these are happening, what is the current status of each one of them, this chart or this reporting should not become an impediment. If you think that it is becoming an impediment, normally you can easily just discontinue this one, because earned value management itself has its own price to pay, and that is one of them, that every day you have to re-estimate, and every day you have to go and tell your scrum master that how many tasks I have completed yesterday, how many tasks are still pending I'm working on, and how many are not yet started. So you will be doing it every day, and that may take a lot of your time as well. That's why we need to keep in mind that if any of these activities are becoming impediment to your progress, then you have to either reduce the frequency of that one, you have to reduce or find an automated way to do that. For example, one of the things you can do is use one of those automated tools and ask your team just to update in your status over there, so he or she doesn't have to go to each member and or send an email, or each member does not have to send an email to scrum master and saying these are the tasks that have been completed or not. So they can all scrum master can always see that in the tool how many of tasks are in progress or not. Any question? Nope. Now, just like task burn down chart, we do have a product release burn down chart that also tells you exactly how what is our big list of all the requirements that we have for the product, and then we go from each time, each release, how much of that one is being released, and then it's the size of that overall product backlog is gonna should get smaller and smaller and smaller. That's how it's gonna be. So that's how we will continue to go from a very large scope to the reduced scope all the way till the end. All right. Now, what is any question on overall process that you have? So you all are the expert in the Scrum methodology now?
Very much.
Good.
Should be.
Perfect. Great. I need to
No,
go.
but burn down chart is not used by everyone. That's for sure, right? Not all organizations do that, or all Scrum Masters use that to track it. And also apart from Jira, there are other tools also track this particular chart. Or any ideas on that one?
These are the main charts that we do use, and burn down chart is very helpful tool to tell your team, your product owner, as well as your customers that how are we actually making progress and how many more requirements are still left to be done. So that's how these burn down charts are helpful. Yes, it is hard. That's why we bring down to here. When the bad news is the scaling part, for example, it is hard. But if you look at it, anybody has any idea what exactly is the problem we are trying to solve here by adopting an agile methodology versus traditional waterfall?
Flexibility.
Good. That's one point.
I think you described this before too, right? Where you're trying to, when you divide the task into smaller, chunks, you get the feedback from your customers pretty soon once you finish your something, and then you can demonstrate it to the customers, and then they see how they like it. If they have feedback, then you can correct based on that, things like that.
Correct. So one of the main things that we are doing here is we are actually minimizing the risk, or we are managing the risk better. So this is an example is if you collect all the requirements from your customer and then tell them, and it would take you about, let's say, 3 months to just collect the requirements and document everything. And then you say, okay, thank you very much. We're going to come back to you in about 6 months or 9 months from now, and then we will have a complete product for you. And 9 months later, you go back to your client and say, okay, we have everything that you asked us to do as per this document. And you give it to them, and your customers see and they say, no, that's not what I asked for. And it might be the reason we did not understand the requirement, and we did not document it properly, or even customer did not have a clear idea what they were looking for. And when they actually give you a sign off on the document of the requirement, they did not have a complete clear picture what to do. So what happened that with that, you just went in and you said, okay, fine, we'll give it to you. And then 9 months later, so now, by the way, you have already burned about 12 months of your project timeline. And after 12 months, spending about 12 months and maybe more than a big chunk of your budget as well, you have already burned. And client says that this product is of no use to us at all. Instead of that, what we do is that we just create a smaller, shippable work product, take it in front of client, ask them, is that what you're looking for? They say, yeah, but this is not complete. You say, yeah, it's not complete. This is just a small part of it. But is this small part okay or not? And they may say yes, or they may say no. Even if they say no, that's your success, because you have, instead of wasting your 12 months, you wasted only 2 months, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And then you go back and then you fix it again. So that's the big thing that you are doing. That's why you are actually managing your risk here. So that risk is basically helping you over here.
Yeah, Brother Gul, very interesting concept. Fortunately, I did not watch the video yesterday, but listening through today, I must say I have to go see that video one more time. This is not common in the civil engineering practices at all. Very, very uncommon.
Yeah.
I would only have seen something like this in program levels, where the program manager is trying to figure out a process to push down into projects, but not necessarily into the project level itself.
Great. And one of the thing, it's interesting that you mentioned about the civil engineering, because I don't have a civil engineering background, so I don't know about it. However, I was actually talking to someone, and I was saying that this agile methodologies are mostly implemented in IT, and they said, no, we have now in civil engineering as well, we do it. And I said, how? And then they said, have you seen those bridges that are being built? And now we build smaller pieces of bridges, and they are like pre-built, and then we just bring them over here. And then somehow he was trying to explain it in very technical way. I could not understand everything, but my understanding is that now the bridges are also built in these smaller pieces at a time, and then you can build the whole thing. So yeah,
totally agree. That's the example I said in programs. Like we want to build a bridge. Usually it's a program to build the bridge. They break it into smaller projects, components.
Okay.
And then the program manager will try to integrate that. So each project has its own iterative cycle to come up with their pieces, as long as they meet the requirements of their connecting pieces to it.
Correct. As I said, that I don't have a civil engineering background, but yeah, that's what he was trying to explain it to me, that thing, that we do implement it in this way. Because I was explaining it to them that our topic was around minimizing the risks, and how do we minimize the risk. And we were giving different examples, and I said, I don't knowledge about the other disciplines. How do you do that? I know in the IT world how we do it. I know in the, for example, space program how they do it, but I don't know how they do it in other, like construction area and all that. So then this brother actually explained it to me. But yeah, thank you very much for giving us that. And yes, I would say go back, and if you have not seen the video, or even if you have seen the video after looking at this one, I would say just go back and read this whole reference card one more time. It's only 6 pages. Just read it again, and then go back and then watch the video as well. It's 1 hour video, but it will actually give you, then since now you have reviewed it, you will be able to see that what is happening. Faisal, you have a hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, he mentioned civil engineering, right? But and since we talked about agile and in which Scrum is mainly used, which obviously, like the benefit you said, it's we get the version 0 out sooner, and if there is a bad news, we are able to circulate it sooner, right? To communicate it sooner. The other methodology which I think which people use, because in IT even we don't have everywhere software, right? We have other functions like data center, we have the IDFOs and the workplace related, right? They not necessarily use the Scrum framework. They use the Kanban, for example, right? Which is another approach of it's a kind of compromise to see the work is tracked differently. It's not like 6 people or 8 people doing dependency like a software. It's more of an individual work which is being tracked. Like for example, let's say we have a big conference room we have to look at the IDFO with same resource dependency on their power and cooling and the routers and the switches going into the in the distribution facilities and things like that. So I'm just adding that not necessarily always in IT we have the tracking through the pure agile Scrum method, right? We are doing through Kanban and other methodologies as well. So just adding some more color here.
Yep. Thank you for the insight. And yes, Scrum is one of them. Scrum is probably the one of the easiest one, to be honest. Kanban and Lean are a little bit more general management framework that we have. But I started with this one. I wanted to explain this one to you so that you can start with the simpler approach, and then we can just build on top. I would recommend that one of the homework that you have is, if you first, obviously, if you have not done your yesterday's homework, which is to review this reference card, and also you have not seen the video, please go back and review the see the video as well again. And also in the document, in the book that I shared, do read the Kanban and Lean process as well. They're not too much different, but they have a little bit of a different approach, a little bit of a hybrid approach. You look at that one as well, so that will give you the flavor. Once you know your concept, what the concept is, then it's easier for you to adopt any other methodology. But if you're lacking the concept, then it's a problem. For example, one of the things that we normally nowadays we do is, have you ever heard of a term called Scrum of Scrums?
Yes.
The release trains, and you have RTEs. So those are the ones that where we go not only one Scrum at a time, we do actually multiple at a program level, multiple Scrums. So Scrum of Scrums, we do it. So that way it's much easier for you to start looking at it at a macro level instead of a micro level. Okay, so these are the few practices that we have. That Lean is one of them. It's Scrum is a general management framework coinciding with the agile movement in software development, which is partly inspired by lean manufacturing approaches. So the Toyota production system is one of them. Extreme programming was also part of that one, where we had the test-driven development. Everything was tested right away. Extreme programming was very, very common, or I think Microsoft was one of the pioneers of that one. If not, I'm not sure if they are the ones who originated, but they were at least one of the very early adopters of this. That they would have, with one developer who's developing any kind of product, they will have a tester sitting next to them and writing it. So it was actually a test driven instead of development driven requirement. So every requirement has its own processes as well. We have teams self-organization where teams are they are engaged, they outperform, and then as well sometimes we have the challenges and opportunities for those teams as well, how they do it. And one of the thing is which most of the people ask me this question, very common, and I'm sorry I'm taking a little bit more longer time, I wanted to give you a break here, but this is the last topic, which is when the scrum is appropriate. So we were looking at it, when scrum is appropriate. Well, the mostly when we have the complete picture that we have to do, we have a list of requirements. We have predictable, we have chaotic, and then we have anarchy. So it's very simple. It is typical to adopt the defined theoretical modeling approach when the underlying mechanism by which a process operates are reasonably well done, well understood. That's predictable. And then when you have chaotic, that's when the process is too complicated for the defined approach. The empirical approach is the appropriate choice. And then the third one is the anarchy. Definitely, you don't want to do any project when you are actually in anarchy. You have to go back to and create, at least it has to be predictable or chaotic. So I always say that if you have everything predictable, you do go with the predictable approach and go with the waterfall methodology. When you have a little bit of a chaotic, that's where you choose the Scrum or Kanban or Lean. And then when you go in total anarchy, you have your house in order first before you do that. Don't do a project when you are in complete anarchy. So sorry, it's too much windy out there. I was thinking that somebody's going to blow out. Okay, it's 4 o'clock. I want to give you a 15 minutes break, and we will start at 4:15 inshallah after Asr. If you have any question in between, we'll do. After this one, we will go over your projects and see what you have done so far, and then how we can actually go and help each other in actually defining our project as well. And also then I'll try to, I'll give you some work for your testing as well, but that's something that I want you to do at your free time in the next 1 week, and then come back with your results when you have it. All right, let's take a break for 15 minutes, and then we'll
Is that, Brother Gul, you meant that we will?
Okay, we're gonna go over the projects that we had. So you can come in and introduce yourself, the name of your project, and let us know who are your team members that you have, and then you can briefly just tell us maybe in a 1 or 2 sentence what your project is about.
Brother Gul, do you anticipate us to share a screen, or that would be a little bit complicated?
Well, if you can share the screen. If you cannot share the screen, you have already sent me something, then I can look at it, and I can open up that document for you. Or you can briefly tell us exactly what you have done. What I'm more interested is looking at what are the different processes that you have applied so far in your.
Okay, yeah. So me and Dalia, being a partner at home, we decided to partner on this project as well, just because we don't have enough things to partner on.
That is perfectly fine. Okay, who wants to go first for this?
We can go first if that's okay with you, Brother Gul.
Go ahead.
Just let me just take it out. I have it in front of me. 1 second.
This is the project plan. Okay, I think we are ready. We have the project charter.
Okay.
So,
is it possible for you to share the screen right now?
No, we're using an iPad, and charter is on the.
Can you log from here?
Yeah, why don't you just give us a second? Someone else can go. We'll try to do that.
Okay. While they are waiting for setting up the everything, anybody else is ready to share their screen and then start explaining about their project?
From our side, myself, Qadir, Munir, Reza, and Hafiz put together. Maybe Munir, I don't know if you're there already. He might share because he had a Google Drive and everything set up. So
Yeah, Abid bhai, I can share, and if you want, you can go with the
yeah, we all can pitch in. Qadir also can pitch in. So go ahead, you can start sharing.
Let me share my screen. Oh, please host to disable participant screen sharing.
Okay, Gulboy, you probably have to enable us.
Gulbhai, can you please give us the permission?
I'm trying to see that. I think everyone can.
No, you have to give the host or host
Presenter.
permission. Yeah,
Yeah,
presenter or host permission.
everyone,
Yes.
and they are here. Can you request it over there so that I can?
I don't see a request button here.
Brother Gul, you have to go into security settings,
Yeah.
in which you only have it at the bottom, and then see enable the mm, presentation capabilities to all the participant. This way you don't have to enable for each and every individual. You don't have to make others co-hosts.
Yes, I'm doing it. Hold on.
Yeah.
So I mean, while this is happening, right, Abed, we can start summarizing.
Okay, it's now good. Let me share it. Desktop 2. Okay. So let me know if everybody can see the screen here.
We can see it.
Okay. Brother Abed, please go ahead.
Okay, so basically, we started with a project for that the MCF is hosting currently, which is the homeless shelter program with the help of the Heart. So this is the purpose is to provide the daily overnight shelter and food for the homeless people in collaboration with the homeless assistance resource team of Folsom at our facility in MCF. This will be for 1 week from Sunday evening to the next Sunday evening. We'll put down the dates and things like that as we go. We'll show you. This is purely a volunteers-based program. Of course, MCF is pitching in also, and then from as a project lead from MCF side, we have our outreach secretary as the project lead. So that's the main project charter for us for this to define this project. Kader, you can go ahead with other things too. Kader, Munir,
Sure.
Hafiz.
So I think, like Abed said, right, the main charter is the 1 week from a stakeholder identification. We had, of course, we have to work with Heart, and then we have volunteers. Can you guys hear?
2 hours.
Okay. So we have from a stakeholder point of view, we have Heart because we have to work directly because policies and rules comes from them, a lot of them. Then we have MCF leadership because we are using the facility and their thing. Of course, the homeless who will be coming to stay overnight, police department because in case of emergency we need to reach them, fire departments, and also there will be some volunteers with other non-profit organizations which will be involved. So these are all our stakeholders. Then we move on to the scope management, which I think Abed just briefly described out on a very high level that this will be 1 week.
Before we go into the scope, can we go back to the charter? Who's your
Sure.
project sponsor?
So I think this is what we said, right? It's a multiple sponsor, right? It's a volunteer-based program. So the sponsors are partial heart, partial MCF, and remaining volunteers.
Mm.
Because some
Part
of
of
the things
NCF are going to be your sponsor. I don't think so. The volunteers are is the team who's going to be working on this one. So they are stakeholders,
yes, they are
but
stakeholders.
or the team members actually. Your main sponsors are Heart and MCF. So you need to list them down separately as a item that this is you who is your project sponsor for this.
Yeah,
Okay.
we thought about it from the, I think Kader mentioned volunteers. We discussed this. I think the reason we are saying volunteers also is because they are also providing food and that kind of things, right? So they're also part of sponsors. That's what we thought. Our volunteers also are part of our sponsors list.
Yeah, but you haven't actually, just like you mentioned in the project charter, you identify the stakeholders, you also identify separately as very clearly that these are the project sponsors for this.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so and that will be under project charter.
Yeah, that's part of your project charter.
Okay, okay. I think we can add those two there. Okay. Anything on the stakeholder, Raghu?
I think overall you got the gist of it. It's just that when you have any kind of the templates that you use, that will require you to just add some more meat to this one, explain a little about it in more detail, but you're on the right track. That's good.
Okay. Yeah, probably I think we have more information as we go down. Probably once you see other, maybe some of the things may not be in the right place. Probably we can help to, move around and put it in the right locations.
Okay, that's fine.
So you want to go into each of these, or how do you
No,
want us to do?
just if you, the main headings, if you can explain in the
Okay.
scope, for example, in the initiation phase, what you have done, in the execution phase, what you have done.
Sure, sure. So this is the planning phase, right? We have the scope management where we have defined all the scope with respect to this one. We talked about how many people will be there, and what are other, right? How long they will be staying, and then what are the things, main chores which needs to be taken care of during this project. That's what was defined in this one. For the time management, we have a more detailed spreadsheet, which is right now not here attached, which talks about a daily schedule of pickup, drop, who is doing what kind of thing. So that is will be more followed details in the time management thing. And then the cost management is what we were just talking about. Where are all our big costs coming from for this project? And of course the quality management is right, all the things which we have to take care of, right? Cleaning on a daily basis, and then ensuring that all the water supply, electricity is there, water, warm water, quiet area, no smoking signs, and things like this.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody wants to talk about the execution phase for my team? Munir bhai,
You can go ahead, Khader bhai. You can go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Abed, you want me to do it or you want to do it?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
You can continue, Father Bhai. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So from the execution phase, right, we talked about like different components, big components on the first of all, right, human resource management, which talks about right how many people will be coming on a daily basis, and then we talked about right how many people do we need to manage the activities. For example, you have welcome team on an average, right, every day you need about 2 to 3 people. 7 days splits around from 10 to 12 people person is a bare minimum you would need. Then overnight crew, same thing. We need about 10 to 14 people for that entire program. That's the resource we need, volunteers. And then we also talked about check-in, check-out at the at the at when the volunteer when the in when the homeless people come in, there should be somebody from the heart to check it in. So that's another coordination we have to do with the heart. So this is pretty much high level we describe about the overall work needed there. And of course, from a communication management point, what are the sources of communication be used? Email, WhatsApp, and then of course inform the volunteers for the training. What are the things at what time the communication needs to happen? Again, just one day before the each assigned volunteers, reminding them about their assignment coming in, making sure there's no surprises. We have this backup in case somebody's not available, food coming on time. All these are the communication which needs to happen on a regular basis. So we just put down all the communication needs. Moving to the procurement management, but the Gul, please feel free to stop me if I'm just rushing.
Continue.
Okay, okay. So the procurement, right? All the necessary things, supplies we need to have in place, food supplies, communicating food quality, and when in the breakfast, all the breakfast items there when they leave, secure any required permits if it needs to happen before this one, and of course seeking the if internet service if when the inmates are there, if they need any internet to connect, so have that all information available. So that's something we want to make sure all that is covered.
Yeah, I
Moving.
have some feedback on there. So some of these the processes that you have defined, can you go scroll back up again? Some of the processes you define in your execution, they can be actually part of your requirement, your planning phase as well. For example, procurement, the latest one, secure any permits required. So you need to, in the execution, you need to know exactly what permit required. And in the planning phase, you can say secure X number of permits if they're applicable. And then execution, you know exactly which permit required, or you can say permit required was permit were not required, so we just discarded this one.
Got you. Got it.
So that's one example. Then a couple of other things, for example, what time people are going to come in, what time people are going to go back. And then in the execution phase, for the human resource, you said these are the number of volunteers we're going to be doing, securing these number of volunteers. And then you will have that for each one of those in the execution phase, you can say the volunteers are going to come in, they will check in at this register, or there's an automated way to check in, or they will check in at the desk, at the front desk, and then make sure that they have signed and they are available, things like that. So you will have all those things already listed down, what needs to be done. And then hard policies, if possible, you need to have, because you are just creating this one as a complete project for 1 week. You need to put those policies there if there are any other policies that are applicable, or any compliance requirement that are applicable as well. I like
Yeah.
your plan very well. That's good. You just, I mean, these are as a bullet point, it's very, very well defined. And then you just need to explain it more in what was the name of the WhatsApp group we created, which are the emails, how many members, things like that. But overall, I like your communication plan very well. And that's one of the very key aspect that normally people miss that. So well done. Good job on that one.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. It was all collective effort. We have 5 members in the team, so yeah. Then moving on to monitoring and controlling phase, we evaluated the risk management. So what are the risk items? So we will hit. We need to be worried or concerned about. So continuously identify asset and implement the risk response. Implement policies to minimize, risk like keep once the residents comes in, they cannot leave out because when the heart brings these residents from a central check-in place to our to MC facility. Once they are in the MC facility, we want them to monitor until they again leave the next day. So that kind of policies to minimize the risk. And also have supervision if they even go to escort them to the restroom rather than leaving unsupervised. That's something we put in the risk management thing. And then we had clear instruction and how to address the conflicts with the stakeholders, uh, and plan to have backup volunteers in case right somebody doesn't shows up last minute. We need to have a plan for the backup volunteers. Plan to address issues with the facilities. If there is any facility breakdown or anything, we need to have it. What are the plans or things needs to happen in case of medical emergencies? So that's where we put all this in the risk management. Performances reporting. So how are we going to control our performance? Monitor the progress through daily check-in, check-outs. We want to keep a registered log wherein you keep in when the inmates come in, we have check-in. When they go out, check-out, which has the complete report of all the activities which happen. If any incident happens, any issues, any problems, everything is get logged into that register. So that way we keep a track of what is happening, and make sure that happen. The overnight report is another thing which tracks about if any disturbance, any issues, any problem with anything. We want to log in. That way, we keep on striving to improve the quality. Um, and then, of course, once the event is done, we completely have this report and send it to the next shelter place where they go. And of course, we receive the same from the previous one. Mo- Moving on to quality control, we talked about is right. How do we maintain the quality? Then we talked about regularly accessing the facility to make sure there is make the adjustment as needed, uh, and daily intake form. Which so usually when the residents come in, they have this intake form which this pretty much describes their entire history and what they have what medical needs they have, any people with diabetes, any special needs, all this is there. So read these and make sure that we address them and serve them according to their restrictions. Check the intake form to understand residents background, and then report. Of course, we review the overnight report we just talked about in the performance reporting, and of course socialize with them at the dinner table, eat with them, make them feel home, and of course inspect the quality for any leftover foods or pest control, and ensure daily janitorial service is available. So this is the few things we talked about how to improve the quality and help them serve better. Of course, water heater and electrical outlets working. Few things which we thought are more important when they are there to help them. The next bullet we talked about the issue management, wherein we talked about how if any issue happen, if any problems happen, how to address those kind of things, right? If any issue arises, then the program in charge, right? That person needs to be informed immediately. Every time the leader of the program, he needs to be notified every all the time. Site leader need to inform if things goes beyond something in the manageable. There are clear instruction needs to be provided so that whoever is there, they call the police, Folsom police, Folsom fire, or whatever it needs to take, and then of course inform the heart leader as well, and report all minor and major issue. Every issues being logged in the register which I talked about. That way, right, the record is there from one day over day to see what kind of disturbance if anything happen, and so we are prepared and try to avoid situation like those. And the other issue we talked about was the food quality, to make sure that right food there's no issues with the food. There should be some committee to address the food and make sure that spice levels are not too far hot, or there are no issues with the residents like the food. I mean, basically, because the food we eat versus what they like may be different. So that's why to understand those challenges. In the closing phase, we talked about is right. Okay, once we are done, what are the things we need to take care of, right? Once we are done, pretty much when they leave, of course, we need to arrange with the heart to make sure they come and take away all their beds. They bring a lot of other stuff. Whatever things belongs to the heart, they come and pick it up. Make sure the shower, uh, uh, mobile shower is also unhooked, and then they take it up, and we clean the MCF facility and return to the MCF in a pristine or the condition we had before. Of course, lesson learned is something we talked about. Is I definitely we have to collect all the from a weekly report that how things what things went well, what were the shortcomings, and then log everything in our lesson learned report.
Brother Kader, can I have a question, please?
Yes, please.
Have you thought of like drug management? Like, what if someone like is sick and on medication? Like, are they allowed to keep their drugs with them, like prescribed medicine, or should be checked
That
in
is
maybe at the
heart
MCF facility?
actually, yeah, that's a question. Heart actually takes care of that. They are the ones responsible to ensure the number one, they're cleared from criminal records or drug uses like abuses. Number two, their personal, drugs or medications and things like that. So heart is the responsible. They do all the checking. They do all
But I mean,
the
they have to take
pre.
their medications maybe like 3
Correct.
times a day, and while being
Yeah,
at
yeah,
MCF, maybe they have to take
yeah.
medication. So
Yeah.
is there a process to check maybe the medication in at some MCF locker, and then some MCF rep like can provide it to them?
This is what we generally do it, brother Talha. Usually, so even sometime, right, they bring the insulin, and we try to keep it in our refrigerator so that they can keep it safe. So yes, they do bring their medical medications, and that's pretty much, unless right it's something like I said, insulin, we try to keep it. Otherwise, they have their own bags. They keep it in their bags. So they're allowed to, they are given one bag, and they are allowed to put a transparent bag. So all the homeless goes to some central location. That's where they check in, and that's where they are being checked for if they are under intoxicated, under any drugs or anything. They
Oh,
have
but,
been.
I think this is good. Let's not. We are not gonna just solve all the problems here. I'm just wanting to see that we have it here. One of the in general feedback is try to add the one of the key aspect of the project, and that is the project governance. Project governance defines who's doing what at what time. I like the when you have mentioned in your system wherever there is a change management, there is a issue management, what kind of issue and who's going to be responsible for what at that time. We need to define the RACI chart we discussed in our, I think, very first or second class, which is who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed. So that's the RACI chart. So you need to have in that chart, you need to define who are the different members that you have, and then for each one of those members, you need to just say that who's what is your RACI chart, and then the communication as well. What communication goes to whom? Not all the communication goes to everyone. So some of the communication is going to go to only a certain level. Some communication going to go to the volunteer level. Some communication is going to go to heart and for some PD and fire department level. And some communication is going to go to your MCF board as well as the heart management as well. So those different levels of the governance, you need to just define that. Overall, it looks good. So let's move on to the next one. Who has?
I can go, Gulbay.
Go ahead.
All right. Let me share my screen.
And
Let me know.
We are not gonna go to each and every point in your on that one.
Okay.
Let's stay at the high level.
High level. Okay. All right. Then okay. Just in case if I go in more detail, just feel free to stop me. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. All right. So in our project team, we have me, Brother Jamal, Noman, Shahzad, and Riaz. To a certain extent, almost everybody contributed to this project. Our problem statement was that we needed to kind of launch a public speaking initiative within MCF where members, community members, are able to explain their point and their concerns within a timely manner and to the city council or in general, whether at work or at MCF level or whatnot. We wanted to improve the overall public speaking leadership skills within the community. So keeping that in mind, there's few of us from the MCF. We met in advance and we threw some ideas around and see what would be the best solution that can address this issue or develop members within our community. And we came up with the Toastmaster. Toastmaster is a well-known organization that has been around for about 100 years, and they provide a very well guided program to improve public speaking, confidence, leadership, and we decided to go with that Toastmaster program. So then that became our project to start a Toastmaster program within our community, and we looked at the requirements. What were the requirements to start that? There's one of the hard requirements that we need to have a 20 members, minimum of 20 members to get our group chartered. And there's a cost associated with those with getting the club started. And MCF was one of our sponsor who said that they are able to give us some funds to get things off the ground. For the resources, and stop me if I'm going too fast. I just want to, as you said, go quickly. Resources, we needed a commitment from MCF that we needed a room to carry out our meeting, and then from the Toastmaster side of things, they were able to provide us additional help to get us familiar with the application process and how to conduct a meeting. Who are the club officers, what are their roles, are going to be mentors and journal help. Those are the resources that we put in place to get our meeting started. For a timeline, I carried out the initial meeting. I believe Gulwa, you were there and introduced the concept of Toastmaster, how the meetings are done. There were a few people came around from the existing clubs, and they helped me put that informational meeting to introduce the concept. And it's a timeline is for us to get charter, and it'll be continuous for 6 months to a year or beyond, as long as we are able to maintain our 20 members and maintain our charter and maintain the quality and the service that Toastmaster promised to provide to the community. It will continue to move on, and I'll talk about some of the risks as well. I talked about the cost is $125 to establish a local charter, and then there is a membership fee to join, $70 for 6 months. And so far, some money has been spent out of the fund that MCA provide to buy some supplies and set up the mix, bring some snacks and whatnot to get the meeting. We highlighted some of the risks, and that's what kind of keeps me up at night. Well, not literally, but it's a success criteria to how do we handle some of these risks, and those are some real risks that we are seeing even now for our next meeting. Low participation, lack of engagement, not enough members, ineffective leadership, poor organization, inconsistent meeting quality, or topics are not interesting enough, or feedback that the speakers are getting is not efficient or effective, or lack of preparedness. So these are some of the risks that we have to keep track of it and deliver on those. Stakeholders, there's external stakeholders and some internal. Toastmaster International is our external stakeholder, area and growth director and district manager. They were here to help us get this off the ground. So if our club is not successful, they would have to report to their manager or someone higher up in the Toastmaster. Okay, what happened? What didn't work? So those are our external stakeholder. Internal is MCF, because this is a blessed program by MCF, and they put some money towards it, which is and the community members is once again is a volunteer. All of us are who are in the executive committee are volunteers, but the members, they pay some fee to take benefit of the program. So they are lined up as a stakeholders for that. Communication plan nowadays is WhatsApp and email, but majority of is WhatsApp. We created a MCF Toastmaster club, and there is a sign up sheet. An automated email goes out to whoever signs up through that Google form. And there's information video is provided, and what is Toastmaster, and there's a link to join our group, and one of the admins in the group approves the requests. It's not like anybody can join, so we just make sure that they have signed up, and someone somehow in the community knows them. We are controlling via that. And we within a communication plan, we have our own secondary group, which is for executive committee. And in the executive committee, there's a president, there's a vice president of education, there's a vice president of public relation membership, treasury secretary, and a sergeant of arms. So there's 7 dedicated volunteer members who are responsible for putting the meetings together and communicating. We also meet, the executive committee meets every other week as well. And then our standard meeting is every Thursday, second and fourth Thursday of the month. Actually, I already spoke about the project governance. It includes the executive committee, and we have to adhere to some of the Toastmaster international policies and some of our local MCF Toastmaster rules. And also, we also have to adhere to some of the MCF policies. This part we are developing more information. Okay, what are our local MCF Toastmaster rules are, and how are we going to apply? It's an open club, open to everybody, Muslim or non-Muslim. So far we don't have any non-Muslim in the group, but that will be another risk or a ways of expansion, that if you want to maintain our 20 member, we have to reach out to the non-Muslim as well. This is the org chart. Organization is MCF, and within the MCF, they have several different portfolio: outreach, youth, and expansion 2.0. In the, I believe, fell under the outreach program, Toastmaster, and then our project was to start the Toastmaster club. Performance and measurements. Baseline is maintaining the performance criteria to have 20 members at all times. And the other one that I'm also near and dear to is to start a youth club. That is something called the Gavel club within the Toastmaster. It brings up the youth within our community. And this is since it's all volunteer, it also is a member from a community side, is fee based. It 100% depends on involvement of a community, them taking part, and setting up their own individual goals to see how can I achieve it, and what programs are available through MCF to help with that. And without the community, is difficult to get it to be successful. So this is entirely, I have a very dedicated team of volunteers in the executive committee, and they are doing exceptional job to get this thing off the ground. So far, we had 3 very successful, very fun learning, safe learning environment, and very fun meetings. And we are looking forward to the one this coming Thursday. Change management, yes, we had some difficulties defining this one and applying the rules, especially with there's so many different opinions and scheduling issues. Some people are not able to come on Thursday, and some are saying I basically had to invent new days of the week to accommodate everybody. So, and controlling communication within the group. And so we have to kind of sit down and define how do we change and how do we accommodate new members and their feedback, and that is an ongoing work. Conflict resolution within the group, within our executive group, and also within the Toastmaster group. How do we resolve some of those issues?
I have a question.
Yes.
How did you create a new day of the week? I would like to learn that from you.
No, exactly, because it did not work for like Monday through Sunday. Everybody's saying, okay, let's do weekend. Let's do Monday. Let's go to Tuesday. I'm available this day. So the point of it was saying that in order for me to accommodate, I had to invent new days to come up with, which is not possible. So basically, that's another way of saying it, that we're not going to be able to accommodate everybody. Is let's say Brother Abid, that you wanted to say, I set me a goal to become an competent leadership. You're going to have to make time to attend on Thursday from 6 to 8 o'clock, because we took actually a poll to decide on this one, and majority democracy rule it kind of decided on that. So I have another thing that I want Brother Jamal to present. He's within the Toastmaster Club. He's the VP of Education for me, for our club, and he wanted to quickly go over this chart that he created. So allow him a few minutes to go over that, please.
Okay.
Go ahead,
Thank you,
Brother.
Thank you, Brother Faisal. So as Brother Faisal mentioned, one of the requirements was to have a minimum of 20 Toastmaster members, and we're falling short of that. So what we did was we took a look at the project management issue log, Brother Gul, that you shared, and basically created our own version, and created this tracker or this issue log of what we're, our efforts to basically get those additional 6 members registered for Toastmasters. And so we as a team huddled to identify what are some channels, mechanisms that we could promote Toastmasters, and basically came up with these action items, and came up with statuses, ownership, and due dates, which was really helpful for us to kind of track throughout the week how are we coming along individually as a team. And as you can see, most of them are done. And so we've got a few open items there. But side note, if anyone is interested in Toastmasters, reach out to us, Brother Faisal, so that we can reach that 20-member mark.
Okay. So,
and then,
quick question.
Yep, go ahead.
Where have you defined whether this is a risk, an issue, or an issue?
Let's see here. Let me go to. So yeah, right here, if we go under the risk here, low participation and lack of engagement. So that's is in there.
So one of the thing that I would recommend, I like the sheet. Well, that's the same sheet, very familiar with me. I have created this one. Use that one and add another section of all your risks in there. Define all these risks in that one. Then add the who's responsible, by what date we need to address this one, and more important thing is add the mitigation or the risk, mitigation strategy, also called risk response. Add that one as well into that sheet. So that would basically make your sheet very comprehensive. And this is not only for this project. This is again the reason we are doing it, and I'm giving my feedback is to for everyone, whoever is doing it. Not necessarily you have it ready right now or not, but just add these things, note it down, and add these things later on in your project if you have it. For example, I mentioned the RACI chart. Add that one. Risk assessment and all that, risk responses. Create a risk log, a risk and issue log. That would be great. One of the thing, Brother Faisal and Jamal, I noticed here is that you have a project governance, really great. but you have identified who is going to be in the project governance. You need to also define what processes of the governance is doing what. So it's normally it is that in case you need, for example, if somebody tells you that you cannot use the MCF as a location for facilities, who do you need to go to? Things like that. If this kind of thing happens, who's going to be responsible for that? So the different governance level of the program you need to add here. I'm not going into the details that exactly what are the different type of issues or type of processes that you have to cover in the governance. That's varies from project to project, but in general you need to define that one. Another thing is the communication plan, which I mentioned earlier as well, that in communication plan that if you create a RACI chart, that is really helpful. That RACI chart will tell you who's responsible, who's accountable, who's consulted, and who's informed. So in that way, you will have that one. If I think I shared the template for that. If you don't have it, I'll share that one as well later on. Okay. Good.
All right, sounds good. That's good feedback.
Plan. I like it. It's a good starting point. We do need to expand it more, but it's a very good starting point. Good job. All right. Who wants to go next?
Okay, we can go, Khalid and I. We can go now.
Sure.
We started with the initiation phase and the planning phase, which we started with the charter template. I'm going to go over the charter and Khalid will go over the planning. So let me share my screen. Do you see my screen? Not yet, right? Wait a second. You see it now?
Yes, we can see it now.
All right. So let me scroll up here. So our project is just our residence landscape project. We bought a house and we needed to do the landscape for the backyard. So mainly it was just a full landscape backyard and the expansion of the front driveway. So the objective of the project is to fully landscape the unfinished backyard and expand the front driveway. What we have here as the project scope is to provide landscape design, get the permits, execute the construction of the backyard within the project limits. Moving down to the deliverables, deliverables of the project will be design the landscape, get the permit approvals, then provide a cost estimate, construction contract, which is mainly get bids and find the appropriate contractor for the project. And then, which is the deliverable is to get the construction itself going on and then get the closeout documents. Stakeholders on the project, we have the project sponsor is the owner of the house. The project manager is, I put my name here, which is mainly I'm the one who was managing the project. And then we have the project team, we have the landscape designer, the site supervisor, which is part of the construction, and the management team, which is the project manager, and then the construction contractor. So I just listed the team members who are going to be working in the project. For the stakeholders, we have the owners, we have the HOA, which is the homeowner association, and the neighbors. All of these three have a say on the project, so I listed them as the stakeholders.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
What neighbors have a say in this?
Yes, in our neighborhood, yes, we have to get the signature of the neighbors on the design, that they accept the design, it's not going to affect them. And they're okay with, like, for example, the plants that we're going to plant, the trees that are not going to encroach into their fence or anything like that. So they have a say on it.
It's part of the permit requirement by the HOA to get the foresight neighbors, the two on the right and left, the one behind and the one in front of the house.
Thanks.
So what happens if one of the neighbors does not sign? Is that under the risks?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
The project timeline, we started with listing all the deliverables and all the milestones. So the first milestone would be creating the design and having all the drawings ready. That will be an input to the permits and the approvals from the neighbors. And once that is done, we get the construction quotes from different bidders or different contractors. And then we start the contract, which is executing the contract, but with the contractor, and have the construction going. Once the construction is completed, then we get into the closing. So this is just identifying what are the milestones of the project. The timelines, the design and the drawings preparation, I just listed 4 weeks. Permits, 2 weeks. Construction quotes, 4 weeks. And then contract execution, another 2 weeks. The construction itself will take 8 weeks. And then the closing will be where we're going to do the inspection, make sure all the construction is meeting the requirements, and then do the closing documents. That might take 2 weeks. The budget, we just made a cost estimate to say, for example, it's going to cost about $65K. And the breakdown of the budget, like the design will cost about $100. The owner provided material, $5,000, and then the construction will cost about $60. Going down to the risk assumptions, we listed some of the risks. Unforeseen underground water, and the mitigation is to provide additional drainage. Rain weather days, which will be like, it will affect the construction, will be allocated for flow time in the schedule. Permit approval by HOA, and the mitigation will be understand all the requirements and ask others who acquire similar permits and how they mitigated this issue. And then the neighbors get approval on the design elements, discuss the design in advance with the neighbors, and get their comments on it. So if they have a comment, how we're gonna address that comment. The assumptions, we have the HOA requirements are not cumbersome. This is the assumptions that we listed as the assumptions of the risk. Neighbors do not have any say on the design, or all the materials are readily available. So this is what we listed as assumptions to mitigate the risks. As for the governance, decision-making, the house owner has the decision-making of the executing of the project. So they are the main decision-making part. And also the project manager has a decision-making authority with the contractor. Communication plan, the communication plan with the HOA during the permitting process and after completing the project. So we have to communicate with them at the beginning to get the permits. And after the project is completed, again, let them know that the project is completed according to the requirements that we have agreed to. And then the next bullet is the communication with the neighbors. It's going to be before, during, and after the project is completed. Before is when we have to approach them with the design, get their approval on it. During the construction would be like, if they have any comments on what's happening, the contractors are disturbing them or whatever is going during construction. And after the project is done, is just to get their say on the project and if it's good with their expectations. The last one says the project charter approval, and we know that the owner has the main say on approving the project.
Okay, so next to this, Assalamu alaikum, I will be discussing the planning phase that we've done.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I'm just trying to switch to it. Okay, so we did prepare a project plan document for the view terrace landscape. And I appreciate Dalia putting the charter. Actually, this is a live project that we actually worked on together to do our backyard. So we tracked back the steps and we realized that we followed a lot of that. It's just that we never had it documented in a way that's this appropriate. So back again, just a little bit more details about the description of the project is to provide a fully landscape for the backyard and expand the front driveway, including hardscape, softscape, irrigation, water feature, which is like a fountain, drainage, and lighting. I'm not going to go again over the objectives that is explained, but we developed the scope of work to take us through the entire project. And it's divided into 5 tasks. The first task is to develop the design itself. That's broken into 3 components: the draft, final, and the quantities of that design.
At the task level, don't go into the details.
Okay, and task 2 basically is to secure the permit. Task 3 is where we do our pre-qualification of contractors and selecting a contractor and getting cost estimates. Task 4 is the construction phase itself. Task 5 is the testing and closing, where we have to test all the installed components and make sure the plants are not dying and the fountains are working and things like that. As Dalia mentioned, the project manager was actually Dalia. She managed that project. And she was responsible of developing, reviewing, and finalizing the design. Actually, she was the designer at the same time. She managed the permits. I did work on that to obtain the permits. And we worked together to obtain pre-qualifying contractors and select the better contractor and then get into the work. As we mentioned, the team member was the PM, the designer was Dalia herself, and we had a contractor. And I want to say that maybe we didn't mention that we have someone who did the supervision. That was myself, who executed with the contractor to supervise the work. Okay. The stakeholders, we elaborated more on the roles of the stakeholders: the owner, the designer, the HOA, the neighbors. We actually, our house is placed in a way that we only have left and right neighbors. We don't have a back neighbor. We don't have a front neighbor. The schedule, I think we went through it earlier with some details. We didn't develop yet a line and a Gantt chart. Here are the risks. I just wanted to dive straight into our risk mitigation plan. So we did mention the risks up front and the mitigation plans. So we did identify for each item in the risk, what are our risk mitigation strategies? For example, the HOA permits, the ground condition that we think the site might actually have because we live in an area that's rocky. We talked about there is a risk in construction about a retaining wall that we have, and we need to make sure that we have a drainage pipe if it was installed by the developer or not. So that was a risk, because if it's not, it would add significant amount of money and time to the schedule. And we had to allow for rain. We actually did this project in March, which was actually during the rain season. Our communication plan, we actually reached out to our neighbors and socialized the overall design ideas. Not that we have to submit documents to them. I mean, then they're our neighbors. So we had to figure out the appropriate level of communication with our neighbors about the work that we're planning to do. Because at one corner of the house with one of the neighbors, there will be a basketball court. And we discussed with them their willingness to bring the ball every time it drops at their house. And one of their comments that this would be annoying and they would not welcome the kids to just go in their backyard to get the ball. So we ended up adjusting our design to include a net to prevent the ball from going into our neighbor's house. So this was actually a good feedback during the early stages. For the HOA communication, we kept it all with via email, so we can have a record keeping. HOA had some requirements in terms of the type of trees that we're gonna plant in the backyard, setbacks from the fence lines and things like that. So they provided that, and we as well communicated with the contract via emails for record keeping. Although we do meet in person on a daily basis during the construction, but we made sure that after we discussed any change or any direction, we write it to the contractor in an email. We updated the owner on a weekly basis on the progress of the work. The designer checked on the work, the design drawings bi-weekly, basically checking the levels, checking the alignments of the, we have a lot of features that we have in the backyard, so needed a lot of checking. And the HOA, once the design is finalized, we applied for the design approval. And after we got the construction, we got the approval, and then part of the conditions of the approval that we need to let them know of the finished product by providing photos so they compare what we said we're going to do to what was done. The neighbors, we talked with them after we finished the design as well as during the construction, because what happened during construction, there were a lot of activities happening. For example, concrete, there were days, and it was a Saturday, where there'd be concrete pouring, there'd be trucks coming in very early in the morning, very loud, and there'd be, we need them to keep their cars away from our house so we can have enough space for the construction. So we had to communicate that with them. The contractor had a porta cabin in front of the house, so we had to make sure we get our neighbors okay on that. So there was a lot of socializing with our two neighbors about this, and it helped us as well know our neighbors better. It's a new community that we moved into. So this is where we stopped, Brother Gul, and we plan to complete the remaining components of the plan.
Exactly. This is really a very comprehensive one. Couple of just points that I want to elaborate here. I really like you have defined the deliverables, and this is a message for all, that when you are defining in your project charter, if you have a list of your milestones and deliverables, that's really, that shows that you have control of that one.
Sharing.
The second thing is your one of the things that you can do now is just start creating your Gantt chart or your project schedule, and then put that the critical path on that one. So in that way, you would exactly where you are heading to. So this is still for all of you, this is a work in progress, but you can continue to do that. All right, I know that it's a 5:20. I want to just do at least one more project before we go take a break for Maghrib. Anybody else is ready?
If there aren't any volunteers, we can go through really quickly.
Sure, go ahead.
Let me share my screen. All right, so just a really quick update. Let me know when you can see the screen.
We can see it now.
All right. So just a very quick intro to the project itself. We're working with a small business in Sacramento, and they currently have to migrate some of their systems that they're using to run their dental practice from whatever they were using before to a new completely online cloud-based system. The issue is that the services that are offered by a previous system are different from the new one. So the new system doesn't offer website management hosting, and they need to move to their own servers, take whatever they have right now, move it to a different server, and at the same time do some redesign, some optimizations. So we're working with this client, and we currently have two sort of documents sorted out for the most part. We have a project charter that we reviewed with the client, and then we have a work breakdown structure of how we plan to kind of implement some of those requirements that the client sent out, as well as some of the project management controls that we want to put in place. We have a set of objectives, largely coming from the client. So basically, the idea is to take the website, move it to a new place, optimize it for better search lookups on Google, fix a whole bunch of typos, add in a couple of new features, especially around new content creation and getting those added to the website at some regular cadence so the website's always fresh and up. I think all that is listed here. So website design, server migration, SEO compliance, and blog automation. Those are the 4 main important things. Listed on the different stakeholders, people that will be working on the project themselves. It's folks that we have in the class who are doing a lot of the project management work. We have a couple of people identified that will be working on development, team design, some of the content creation, and then moving things around, and people who will eventually just do some sort of quality assurance for the project itself.
People are your team members right now?
Well, the team members, oh, sorry, I guess I should have mentioned that way up front. Our team is Rehana Khan, Sarah Yasin, and myself.
Okay, got it.
Sorry about that. So once we've described the stakeholders and what are some of the roles and responsibilities for each one of them, we wanted to list down the constraints and assumptions that we have for the project itself, and what are some of the alternatives that we plan on investigating further once we've gone past the initial planning. So some of those things we haven't quite finished yet. We're still trying to note down the different alternates that we're going to look at and assess, as well as trying to come up with what the risk mitigation.
I have a tentative risk mitigation plan that I can talk about.
Okay, let's finish this overall project plan and then we jump onto the risk mitigation then.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a few milestones that we've described along the way between now and when the project is supposed to be completed, as well as a budget, which is largely really just coming from the down practice itself, as well as a few changes, I guess, that this document has gone through over the past couple of weeks, I guess. So Sarah, do you want to go over the risk mitigation plans that you have in place?
Yeah. So far we have identified 3 risks: budget constraints, website downtime during the migration, and delay in SEO results. So the first one, budget constraints. I haven't written it, so I would just say it. I still have to update the document. So we know that we have got a tight budget, so we are focusing on the most important things first. We are prioritizing it. So our project sponsor will be keeping a close eye on the spending, and if the budget gets tricky, then we are ready to explore other funding options. And the second one, when it comes to downtime during migration, we are aiming to do it at a time when it will affect our website the least, like on the weekends. So our IT and the server team is actually setting up a backup plan to make sure that our site stays online. And if anything goes wrong, then we've got a plan to quickly go back to how things were. And as far as mitigating the delay in SEO results, we are starting early on, making our website more search engine friendly. And our SEA in charge, Sohaib Sajid, is on it, and we're being realistic about when we will see results. And if things don't go as planned, we will be ready to try some extra strategies. So we are just being proactive about any potential problems in our project, any risks, and I hope these plans help us stay on track and handle any surprises that might come up. And that's it for me.
Okay, great. Good start. In this one now, all we need to do is just make sure that now we start. This is, to me, this is an overall project management plan. And then we need to have for each one of these, you need to start documenting your individual artifacts. For example, for risk management, you need to have a risk management plan. For your traceability matrix, you need to create, sorry, for your requirements, you need to create a traceability matrix as well for that. So start thinking about now when you have an overall project plan ready, then you start putting those things as well. You have and the deadlines defined over there, then you start adding those into a project schedule so that you can see the Gantt chart and then who's responsible for what and what are the activities that you're going to be doing on that. Great work.
Cool.
Good
So
job.
yeah, I don't know if you have enough time, but we also had a very quick breakdown structure of taking the requirements from our client and breaking it down into
Let's go
further,
quickly on
more
that one,
refined
then we'll
steps
take a
along
break.
the way.
Yeah, let's go quickly on that one, then we'll take a break.
Okay. Well, a lot of it is really just like a list of things broken down. So maybe we can just stay at the content really. So the different things that we broke it down into, each of the 4 requirements kind of have the requirements broken down into different sections, and how we would quantify or qualify each one of them to see whether that requirement's met or not met. That includes different interviews, requirement gathering stages, our testing and validation, and then some project management tasks that will, I guess, span the entire length of the project as well.
Right. So one of the things that you need to do is make sure that you have defined all your acceptance criteria. So when you actually create your test cases, I see you have a test team you have already defined. If you have all those things, then you just make sure that you define your test cases. In your traceability matrix, you will have your test case name, and also you need to have defined what your acceptance criteria for each one of these testing is. And also, one of the things that I did not see in your schedule overall is, do you have any plans for when you do your testing? At that time, are you doing a UAT, which is basically user acceptance testing? So there is a testing done by your testing team, and then your testing done by the user acceptance testing by the end user or your project sponsor or end user, and then they have to sign off on that one. It could be still within someone from your own team, or it could be actually the end user who's going to be there.
So we did have a small time frame described for that as part of our project milestones.
Good job.
I didn't specifically mention it, but yeah. So once our testing is done, at each of these individual milestones, and eventually at the end, we have about 1 week where we just have user acceptance testing before the project is closed and handed off.
Perfect. Yeah, that's the one that I missed earlier. So good job adding that one. This is very important that you need to get the UAT testing done and then the sign off on that one. All right, great man. Okay, we're gonna take just 10 minutes break for Maghrib. I think it is Maghrib time now. So we're gonna take a 10 minutes break for Maghrib, and then we will get back in at around 5:40. And then if we have anyone else, then we go with that one. Otherwise, we'll just have our homework and then start with that. Okay. All right, everyone. We'll get back.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, brother.
All right, you're back. If we don't have any more, the rest of the the participants, if they don't have their projects ready, so let's put that one for next week. I would like to actually go over those who have not presented it yet, your project next week. But so for now, that I want to just go over a couple of things that we will have. The first thing is, again, whatever we have covered so far today, just want to cover and share that again, that the things that we have covered today is one of the things that we have is our Scrum reference guide that we have discussed it today. We went over this one, so please have a look at this one again, understand that, and see if this applies to your project. See if there is a way that you can actually create the different iterations of your own project that you're doing. The second thing I want to do is I want you to just have a look at the Agile practice guide. This is the one that we have, but mainly what you need to do is watch the video once again that I have shared the link yesterday, and after that you just review this book. And main thing is, if you look at it, for example, the chapter number 3 and chapter number 4 is important. Chapter 3 is the one that we did not cover in detail, that I want you to look at it, the chapter 3 here. 4 and 5, we actually covered in detail in our session today, so you probably don't need to actually go into more, but you can still skim through this one and just look at it, that if you have any questions on this one. Especially the measurements in the Agile projects, that are very good the points that you need to look at those. And then the chapter number 6 as well, so you need to read that. So these are the 2 chapters that I want that you need to review and look at these and read them through. This is going to be very helpful for your exam. The other thing, these are the 2 related to the current topic that we discussed today. The other thing that I want you to do is I want you to actually go over some of the questions or the test I will be sharing with you. You need to go over those tests, and I will share the links with you, that what are the different type of the test you have, and then all you have to do is just go in and then look at those and attempt those tests and see where you stand on that one. Once you come back next week, I'll try to just go over maybe a 1 or 2 tests, not complete tests, but at least few questions of those tests with you, so that we can see what the results are. And then also, if you have any questions while you are attempting the test, and then after that you see the result and you have any confusion why this is the result and not the other answer is more valid, we can discuss those things as well. Okay, any questions?
Brother Gul, are those links you're gonna send us are like adaptive tests similar to the original exam, or how's that link?
Correct. So I will share with you the sample test links. You can use them, and it's not necessarily you have to use one versus the other. You can use any of them and start looking at it. I'm actually still looking for one comprehensive test for all 180 questions, so that you can actually do that one test at least once or twice after you are done with the rest of the coursework. But that's going to be a complete 4-hour test here.
Thank you.
Yeah. But please look out for 2 things. So I'll be as my homework, I'll be sending you the copy of this presentation that we had yesterday, and also the YouTube video as well that for yesterday. Also, I'll send you the video link for today as well, that you so that you can go over this and look at the projects and all that you have covered. These are the things that I'll be sending you for yesterday's and today's session. For next week, I will be sending you some sample test links. So you just need to go in and start attempting those tests and see if you where you stand on in terms of understanding for those. That don't be disheartened if you are not able to actually take it or you're not able to actually score very good on that one, but that will basically tell you where your understanding is, and then so you can easily look at it which area you need to work on more, and then you can focus on that area. Any question on that? No.
Oh, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. You have a question, brother? No. Okay, I think this is good. We can actually, I can give you about 10 minutes back for your time. It was a great session today. Great overall work that the 3 projects that have been presented, that was really good. I provided you some feedback. Please look at that feedback and understand that, and then start. This is the way I see that this is a project management plan that you have prepared along with the project charter. Then start looking at creating those individual work products or the artifacts as well that are required. Brother Faisal, you have a question?
Yes, I had a question regarding the brother Talat's Khalid Bhai, sorry, project. In which phase would you look at the contractors, whether that have license and they carry enough liability, and do you cross-check with your homeowners if something one of the workers get injured? Where does that fall in that project?
Yeah, so we have task 3, which is the pre-selection of the contractors and the cost estimates. So in the pre-selection, we did request from all the 3 contractors to send us copies of their licenses and copies of their insurances. And just because we are in this business, we kind of understand what insurance we look for. So we reviewed that before recommending or selecting which one of the contractors we're going to use, because that is one of the requirements of the permit to the HOA, to provide them a copy of the contractor's license because of any injuries or so.
Okay, so does that fall under risk management scope? What PMP?
That's actually execution, in my opinion, because it will be after we plan the job, we understood what needs to be done, we're gonna move into execution. One task of the execution is to procure the contractor and get all the right documents from the contractor.
So that'll be under procurement?
The initiation phase and the procurement phase, basically this step, as part of the procurement phase that you need to do, you need to procure those services. And as a prerequisite to those services, look like it's a dependency that you need to have those insurances and all that as well. So that's
yes, that's
okay.
a good.
All right, thank you.
All right, are there any more questions?
Yeah, I have questions. So you mentioned, did you? I don't know if I missed it. Did you mention anything about the practice test or practice exam?
Correct. I said that I will be sending you the links so that you can
start
the practice test.
Okay, sorry, I missed that. Okay, thank you.
Any other question anybody has?
Brother Gul, my question to you is, if possible, since we are sharing projects and doing this live with everybody on the computer, should we keep this on the Zoom for the next 2 weeks as well, or you would go back to MCF? That's my ask.
I was actually going to ask you this question. If you are more comfortable with the Zoom, we have even for next week as well. I am not 100% sure.
My request was with all the project sharing and everything, and it's better that once you go into the facility, the problem becomes like the noise and everything. And if we are doing the
I
collaboration
think
at that
well,
time,
the directors say it in a short. We like this better.
Okay, so let's do one thing at a time. I will be sending out a survey to you. Just let me know what you like it better, which one is more convenient right now. I have no problem. I like in-person one-on-one interaction more, but we still have, I think even next week as well, we have 1 day availability for sure. The other day, it's still not 100% sure. And then after that, we have only one last week. But I will let you know exactly what we need to do. If the overwhelming majority says that we want to stay online, then we can stay online. Okay.
thanks, Virgo.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for time. I know it's the whole weekend has been spent on this one, but I hope that you have learned something. By now, you should have at least the majority of the overall project management processes and project management and agile processes at least covered. I don't expect you to that if you are not going to go back and then read that through or review it again, you probably are going to forget that again. So my recommendation is to whatever we covered, please do watch this video again. I know it's a long one, but this video, if you have any questions or anything, you can feel free to reach out to me. Also, the homework that I mentioned, so please go through that homework, which is very, very important. The more practice you do, the better it is for you. Okay, with that one, thank you very much. I'll hopefully see you again next week.
Thank you.
Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.